astrophysics at the University of Montana. Okay, I don't know why we need to understand the physics of outer space, but apparently we do because it's a graduate course and he used to teach it. But when he got out of that business, he just stayed curious, and then he got into something else, and he'll tell you all about that tonight.
All right, are we wired in? Good, okay. Well, I want to welcome all of you here tonight, and I really appreciate you being here. I flew from Helena, Montana. We had 10 inches of snow on the ground. It was just above zero. So I'm glad to be here for more reasons than one. It's a beautiful part of the country. I really like it here. This is fantastic. I hope to come back in the summer, though, at least maybe in the spring. Because I understand you have 4 beautiful seasons out here in Missouri. So Montana, we only have 2 seasons, summer and winter. But the summers are lovely. What we're going to talk about tonight is a little different. In order for you to track with me and absorb this information, you have to understand something. We all live in a box. It's our framework of thought. It's the way we think about the universe and the world around us. It's the way we perceive, and it's a context into which we put the things we perceive. We call that a thought paradigm. And the biggest limiting factor in your life is your thought paradigm. Most people find it impossible to think outside of their comfort zone, which is their little box, their world of reality. So to track with me, you're going to have to allow yourself to just go beyond the confines of your own little thought paradigm box and come along on a little bit of a strange journey here, but it's not too bad. I promise that it's something that if Doris can deal with it, anybody can deal with it, right, Doris? I just have to tease Doris. She's a precious person. So anyway, this story starts, and it has 2 parts. Let me start with my part. 10 years ago, it occurred to me that you can build a laser that sends the particle wave backwards in time. It's time-reversed energy. To accomplish this, you have to have a profound understanding of the characteristics of vacuum space, what we call nothing. Some people refer to it as the space matrix. Some refer to it as subspace. Others refer to it as zero-point energy. As a physicist, I prefer to refer to it as the virtual vacuum particle flux field. And if you understand the characteristics of this particle flux field, which is actually the vacuum of space itself, go into the most remote part of the universe where there's the greatest distance between any mass, any galaxies, and that vacuum is actually seething with energy. Every cubic centimeter of vacuum space, which is about the size of a sugar cube, has about close to 1 billion electron volts of potential. It's a medium of pure potential. And I figured out how to harness that. I can bring potential out of that medium of pure potential, and I can actually engineer the characteristics of the potential. I engineered the characteristics to go backwards in time, and we were able to develop a particle wave operating in the near ultraviolet part of the spectrum, and this is time-reversed energy. And it was very interesting. At first, I didn't do this to do anything to water. Water was an afterthought. I was working on some really bizarre projects, such as, does everybody here know what an inert gas is? An inert gas: helium, neon, argon, xenon, krypton, radon. Why are they called inert gases? They won't combine with anything else. The outer electron shell's full, so they won't share an electron pair. Well, it's very interesting. I figured out how to get oxygen to combine with helium and argon and form new liquids the universe has never seen. And it's done by changing the frequency characteristics of one of those elements. and it can be done with my laser, okay? And I have to be kind of quiet about this. I'm not ready to dump this one on the world yet, because this would turn the sciences of physics and chemistry on their ear. It's really different. I also figured out how to make elements heavier than 113 on the periodic table and to make them stable. And it's done by manipulating spatial temporal geometry. And once you get a heavier element into existence, it's stable because it reacquires something we call symmetry. The elements that are radioactive, that become heavier, they become more unstable, they lose symmetry. And they fall apart because they don't have the requisite amount of symmetry. At a heavier, if you get to element 115, you have a reacquisition of symmetry. But I won't go there. It occurred to me about 3 years after doing this that I could do something to my water with the laser. I knew that everybody I had checked for, at that time it was about 21 years, everybody I'd ever tested was dehydrated. Everyone I had ever tested that came through my door was dehydrated, and I found that to be rather odd. So I remember my medical doctor saying many years ago, we should all drink about 8 glasses of water a day. If you can, better yet, drink 10 or 12 or 14. Oh, the more water, the merrier, right? I found out, no, that's not true. People were coming through my door that were doing something I've never been able to do in my life. Drink a gallon of water a day. Trust me, I tried. I never succeeded in doing that. I spent all day in the bathroom. I had people coming through my door that were drinking 2 gallons of water a day. Dehydrated, just as dehydrated as the person who was living on coffee, tea, and soda drinks. So the question became, what's happening here? I got into the science of water, and this was a real interesting trip and journey for me, because when I exposed water to my laser, it became much more absorbable. It would penetrate membranes much easier. And it turned out that when all was said and done, and I had done a great deal of research, I finally discovered the reason why you couldn't hydrate on the water you were drinking. And the reason why is water, although we refer to it as a liquid, in that state, which we call the uncondensed phase of water, you're actually dealing with a crystal. Water is a crystal. I don't care whether it's in the form of liquid or ice, which is solid, it's still a crystal. The water molecule is, and is this a blackboard? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Hey, cool. Okay, we're dealing with something called permanent dipole moment. And all that means is that if I'm gonna draw a schematic of a water molecule, we're gonna have an oxygen and we're gonna have 2 hydrogen attached or bonded to the oxygen. And this is done through what we call electron pairing. And the oxygen is the normal isotope of oxygen, O16, and the hydrogens are normal H1, okay? And if those are H2, you have heavy water, deuterium oxide, D2O. But in this state, as normal water, the bonding angle between these is 104.5 degrees. Here's the bonding angle between the hydrogens and the oxygen.
Yeah, I think I've read about that.
Yeah, that might do a little better job. So in its what we call most probable ground state, this is the case. But water never gets to rest in its most probable ground state. I'll tell you why. Because in this configuration, water has a net negative charge up here and a net positive charge down here. That's called permanent dipole moment. It's permanently positively negatively charged. It's like a small magnet. So now the water molecule has a very powerful, in fact, irresistible tendency to become involved with its neighbors. It will form structures. So water never exists as independent molecules of water. Now, that's not true for the atmospheric gases. The gases in the atmosphere remain independent as molecules, and some of them exist as atoms. So can anybody here tell me what some of the molecules in the atmosphere are? Oxygen exists as
O2.
O2.
Yeah.
Nitrogen, N2. Xenon's an atom. They're inert gases. Any trace amount of those, they exist as atoms because they won't combine with each other. They don't form molecular bonds, okay? How about, what?
Is there hydrogen?
Oh, there's a little bit of hydrogen. Let's see.
Argon.
Yeah, okay, there's carbon dioxide. There's CO2.
Atoms and molecules are, you're saying.
Yeah, molecules are combinations of atoms.
Oh,
More than one atom coming together. But the inert gases, they stay alone. They will not combine with another inert gas or anything else. They always exist as an independent atom. They can't form a molecule of argon or a molecule of neon or a molecule of any of the inert gases, krypton, whatever, xenon, no. Only an atom. They're inert.
they're atoms, but
They're they're totally non-reactive. So they tend to exist. They don't get compounded with anything in nature, so they're kind of relegated to the atmosphere as a gas. And they're light. They're not very heavy. So they easily float in the atmosphere. Okay? See how this works? Now, it turns out that you get into the science of thermodynamics, and I'm not going to go real deep into this because this will just bore you and lose you. But when you get into thermodynamics, you're dealing with the same mathematics we use to calculate gambling odds. Quite literally, this is true. You're dealing with probabilities. And when you get into the second law of thermodynamics, there's three laws actually. The first law deals with the conservation of energy. Nothing in this universe can totally go away. It's just converted to another state or it dissipates into the environment, but energy never goes away. It has to be conserved. You can create a different kind of energy. Say you can start with heat energy and end up with mechanical energy, which you do in your automobile, or a steam engine, any piston device, or the rotary Wankel engine, or whatever you're using. Diesel fuel does the same thing. We start with heat energy, it's converted to mechanical energy. But you see, the energy always goes somewhere. It can't just disappear. It has to be conserved. That's a law of science. But the second law of thermodynamics, that applies to you and I because we have a situation that we call thermodynamic equilibrium. Let's say that a system is always losing energy. In reality, all closed systems are always losing energy. They get to the point where there's no more energy to lose. They've reached the point of what we call thermodynamic equilibrium. All right? There's no more energy to lose. So, now energy within that system is shared equally among all degrees of freedom. But before that state, it's not shared equally. If I take a volume of gas, not all of those gas particles have the same momentum. They don't all carry the same energy. Okay? That situation doesn't change until you reach thermodynamic equilibrium, where it's leaked all the energy to an environment that it's got to dissipate. There's no more energy to dissipate. Now, when you burn gasoline, that's a severe case of what we call something reaching thermodynamic equilibrium, because the waste byproducts cannot be reconstituted. You can't make gasoline from what comes out of the exhaust pipe. Okay? So now there's no more energy dissipation to happen. So now you have the ultimate case of something reaching thermodynamic equilibrium. Water is an exception to all this. This is crazy. We think of normal thermodynamics as dealing with heat or kinetics. But you can take the same volume of water, if you're careful not to lose any to dissipation, You can bring it to the point of boiling and cool it to the point of freezing. And you can do that over and over again, infinite numbers of times, and the water never changes. It never changes its characteristics. Did you ever think about that? It's amazing. It could be heated, cooled, heated, cooled. You could do that forever, and if you didn't lose the water, you're dealing with the same molecules of water. It would never change in eternity. Now, isn't that amazing? So I started with all of these really interesting ideas about water, and here's what I came up with. I found out that you're trying to drink water that you can't even begin to get through the cell membrane wall. The particle's about 1,000 times too big. The only thing you can effectively get through the membrane wall of a cell has to be somewhere around 1 nanometer which is one 1/1 billionth of a meter. That's how big a nanometer is, a billionth of a meter. And you're trying to get water particles that are a micron in size, which is 1,000 times bigger than this. That represents 1/1,000,000th of a meter. Now, all the water you're drinking, at least 95 to 98% of it, is made of micron-sized particles. You can't get them through the cell membrane because of thermodynamic deterioration or degradation of the water. It deals with energy in a different way, not just as kinetics or heat or movement. Water, this entity, actually draws energy from vacuum space. And if it draws a lot of energy, it comes down in size. It comes down to this size. If it loses energy, it goes up to this size. And I'll tell you why. As soon as you change the energy of this entity, the bonding angle changes. It goes up. It'll go up to 109 degrees from 104.5. It'll go up to 109 degrees. And what happens is that it forms a big structure about a micron in diameter that looks like a geodesic dome. Remember Buckminster Fuller, when he developed the buckyball, the geodesic dome? Yeah, there's about 162 water molecules in this big structure. There's one thing nature abhors. It hates two things. It hates instability, and it hates a lack of symmetry. Water will always form itself into these uniform, three-dimensional geometric structures we call polyhedra. Polyhedra is the plural for polyhedron. One of them is a polyhedron. A whole collection are polyhedra. Now, here you're trying to get this polyhedra, a micron in diameter, to absorb through the cell wall. It can't even begin to go through. So the water you're drinking is pretty much just irrigating you. It's going through your kidneys and out the back door. How you doing? Welcome. Welcome. So the challenge became, how do we solve this problem? You can only solve it if you can pump energy into this entity, and it has to be done in a very special way. Not just any type of energy will work. It has to be energy traveling backwards in time. It's got to go backwards in time. Because when you are dealing with time-reversed energy, you can run the second law of thermodynamics in reverse. You can't change the first law. That's immutable. But you can run the second law in reverse. In other words, some of these sacrosanct laws of physics can be violated under certain sets of rules. And the laws of quantum mechanics tell us that. The laws of quantum mechanics say, this is weird, but we can borrow energy from nothing if we only borrow it for a short moment of time. I found out you can borrow energy from nothing indefinitely if you know what you're doing. That's the difference. There aren't any other quantum physicists out there that are dealing with this reality. You can borrow energy from nothing and hold on to it indefinitely. You can turn it into a permanent state. And when I figured that out, I'm going, whoa, my goodness. Now we're dealing with something here that's really phenomenal. So I borrowed energy from vacuum space, nothing, 0-point energy. And I subjected water to my laser, pumped energy in here, and the bonding angle changed. It went up to about 114 degrees. And all of a sudden, this structure breaks down into this structure. And we had a particle that was a nanometer in size. That's the first part of this story. Now I can hydrate you on this water, but not as efficiently as this water is now. Second part of the story, I ran into a man who was my partner for a while, and he's Canadian, has a degree in civil engineering, and he worked for over 30 years in the mining industry. He made an interesting discovery. This is the part that a lot of people have problems expanding their mind and wrapping their mind around. You're going to have a problem with this, some of you. He was up in the Yukon and northern British Columbia on placer deposits, placer gold, nuggets. And there was no apparent source for that gold. And I've been to the Yukon, and there is no apparent source for the gold in the Yukon. There was a mind-boggling amount of gold that came out of the Yukon, and they have no idea where it came from. So these guys had a claim on a river in Northern California, the old gold country, not far from Sutter's Mill. And they go in every year with their little suction dredge, and somebody puts on the wetsuit, the breathing tanks, and he goes under, and it's like a vacuum. There's a floating dredge on pontoons, and there's a gas motor running, and they create suction, and they suck the gravel off the bottom up through the tube, run it over the riffles, and it goes back into the river. And every year they wait until after the spring flood stage. They go in and mine it, and they pull about the same amount of gold nuggets out every year. And the assumption is nature is washing that gold in from higher above, washing it into the drainage, bringing us this marvelous gift every year. But we're tired of waiting for nature to deliver it. We're going to go find the source. So they bring my partner in. That's what he's been doing for 30 years. So he goes up and looks for 5 years. And finally he comes back to these guys and says, guys, there is no source for the gold. There are no lode deposits up above here. I have looked everywhere. But I have an idea. This idea has been fostering in my mind for some period of time. It had genesis somewhere in his thinking, and I think it started way up in northern British Columbia and Alaska. He said, there's a feature upstream here. It looks like a wall of rock coming down and going across the stream. It goes back up a ways and disappears into the mountainside. Do you know what that is? And they said no. Well, it's what we call a dike, D-I-K-E. It's a wall of igneous rock that came up in a crack in the earth. And all the material around it is softer, so it erodes away or washes away. And the dike remains permanent. It's real hard igneous rock. Did you ever find a speck of gold above the wall? No, we've tested. Not a speck of gold. He said it's always below the wall, isn't it? Yeah, it's always below the wall. He said, you know what I think? The gold is being formed in the water. It's being made from water and energy. He proceeded to prove that. He has a whole collection of nuggets that are made of gold, platinum, and palladium made by 13 frequencies in water. You know what this means? Everybody out there is wrong. All of geology is wrong. A lot of geophysics is wrong. All of these heavy metals are being made from pure energy and water. Nothing but energies. Waveforms in water. And water is the medium. Now, is that a little strange? And here's the bizarre thing. Set up a tank and seeded the energy in the tank, and approximately a 2-ounce nugget of this precious metal, 3 of them, platinum, palladium, and gold, would form in the bottom of the tank in the center. Now, in electrical theory, if we have zero potential line, this is what we call a sine wave. And the height of this wave above the zero potential line is what we call the amplitude of the wave. In our science, we don't deal with amplitude. We refer to them as potentials. And in this science, if we kept the potentials of the energy below an arbitrary 40,000, we got this nugget of platinum, palladium, and gold. If we went above 40,000, we got a brick of copper. And if you went above 60,000, you got a tank of cyanide. Now do you know why cyanide leaches gold?
Different wavelength or something?
No, it's different amplitude. Same waves, different amplitude. So here's what's happening. When they leach gold, they're only putting cyanide in water at a ratio of 50 to 200 parts per million. That's not very much. In reality, it's not the cyanide that's leaching the gold. It's what the cyanide does to the water. Water's leaching the gold. And it does not go into solution in water as little tiny particles. It disappears entirely as its waveform or energy analog. And it can come out as solid matter. It can go back and forth as though water was a stargate. Water is a stargate. Water is the most amazing compound in the universe. And we have begun to crack a code here that's been obscure to the human race for forever, from the beginning of time. We begin to realize water is the ultimate stargate. You can do things with water you couldn't do with anything else.
So it creates minerals in essence.
Metals.
Metals.
Metals. Yeah. Yeah, metals.
Water. Just by the amplitude now?
Just by the complement of energies that go in.
Oh.
So if you've heard of a physicist named Erwin Schrödinger, Schrödinger came up with the famous wave equation. This is kind of like a designer wave function. Those energies go in and the wave function collapses and material substances appears out of nothing. In the natural world, whether or not these right energies come together is all chance. It's pure chance. It's like a crapshoot. Go ahead and throw the dice. If the right waters come together from different sources and they happen to have the right energies, it'll build a heavy metal ore deposit or a placer deposit. But you know that there's a lot of deposits out there that are made of metals, but they're not quite metal enough. Their isotopes aren't advanced enough. Most of the gold is waiting there to be found, but you've got to add energy to that substance to bump the isotope. True story. Big Canadian mining company, most of them are. The world's biggest mining companies are Canadian, and some of them are from Australia. These guys knew my partner, he knew them, and they had their whole careers with this company. They went out and found this big open pit ore deposit. They did their soil sampling, they did their coring, they would assay it and find gold. So they took the stock. You had stock in that company. They took your money and invested it and couldn't recover an ounce of gold. They all got axed, fired. Every one of them lost their careers. They couldn't recover an ounce of gold. You know why? The gold was in a pre-metallic, unstable isotopic state. It was not advanced enough. And when you assayed the gold, the assaying process would add energy and bump the isotope, and you would read metallic gold. It wasn't there. Do you see what's happening out there? We're being fooled by nature. She's saying, you people don't understand the science of isotopes well enough. It turns out that a lot of the isotope energies you put into water to make a nugget, they're all pre-metallic isotopes. Very unstable isotopes. And you're drinking that in this water. A lot of the isotopes you use to build a gold nugget are the same ones the human body uses. Out of over 40 forms of iron, everybody here know what an isotope is? Speak up, raise your hand if you don't know what an isotope is. Okay, we got an element. Let's see that. Simplest element in the universe is hydrogen, okay? Here's hydrogen. Hydrogen 1, okay, and what is it? It's a proton in the nucleus with a positive charge, and here zipping around it in an orbit is an electron with a negative charge. This is plus and this is minus. Here's a proton and here's an electron. Now, if I add another proton, we have a different element. Now, if I add a second proton, we have helium. But the problem is, since they both have a positive charge, you can't hold them together. Like charges repel. So to keep them together, we have to add something called a neutron that has no charge. So I can add two neutrons here, and that is what we call a proton, a nucleus of a helium atom. It's also known as an alpha particle. That's what an alpha particle is. It's a package containing two protons, two neutrons. It's basically the nucleus of a helium atom. But let's go back to hydrogen. If I take my simple hydrogen and I have my proton in the center, I can add a neutron to it, and we still have the one electron zipping around it. And now I have something called deuterium. That's an isotope of hydrogen. Now I can add a second neutron, and we have something called deuterium. In fact, did you know that we found isotopes of hydrogen as high as 108? And science doesn't know this yet. Only my partners and I are aware of this. There are bizarre heavy isotopes of hydrogen, and the soil of Mars is rich in them. Why? Because of all the solar radiation. They don't have the protection we have on Mars. It's full of these heavy isotopes of hydrogen. But that's another story for another time. However, let's take iron. Everybody's body needs iron. There's over 40 isotopes of iron, and your body will only use one isotope, isotope 57. Any other isotope is a poison. So you go to the health food store to get an iron supplement, and if you check the iron supplement, you're getting either isotope 56, 54, in some cases 52, and that's great if you want to build the frame for an automobile. But it isn't going to do you any good. Your body needs an unstable isotope of iron. And where do we find these unstable isotopes? We find them as pure energy in water. That's where they exist, as energies in water. True story. My partner sends a bottle of water to an elderly lady. She's in her 80s. She pays him for the water plus the shipping. He gets a phone call. And it's her son, and he just chews my partner's butt off. I dare you take advantage of my mother, selling her this bogus water. I'm the professor of chemistry at this major university, and I happen to know those isotopes don't exist. You send my mother's money back. Oh, no problem. I'll send her money back. I'll send back the shipping cost. Then my partner said, oh, by the way, your problem isn't with me. It's with the Atomic Energy Commission. These isotopes are in their publications. Let me give you the publication numbers. Silence on the other end of the phone. He said, are you kidding me? And he said, no. These isotopes are in the publications of the Atomic Energy Commission because they're too unstable for you to ever deal with. But they exist as energy in water, and I can make a solid gold nugget from the frequencies of 13 of them. And I've done it. Do you want to come down to California and see my collection? I've seen it with these eyes. Oh, that shut his mouth. Next thing you know, they're having an interesting conversation. You people are getting this water and drinking the same technology that the natural world has used forever to build the elements on the crust of the planet. That's all. We didn't reinvent the wheel here. We're just discovering something that was never discovered in the first place. Not until now. And that's the same for about 40 elements on the periodic table of elements. Your body needs unstable isotopes. So I can take this really small nanometer-sized water. If I put these energies of these unstable isotopes, you know what happens? The water particle goes down even smaller. It goes down to 0.4 nanometers, which is 4 angstroms. Now, We have a water particle that is so hydrating. When you start drinking the water, you have to start with a small amount, because as soon as it gets in your body and the cells absorb it, they purge poisons. The cells are absolutely starving for water. They don't have any significant amount of water or fluid on the inside. And as soon as they get the water, they purge toxins. And if you drink too much of this water, you'll be absolutely overwhelmed in no time at all. I've had it hit them in the same day. Just as loose as a goose. And just vacate from drinking a little bit too much water. We literally have people who can only tolerate 1 ounce of this water a day. 1 ounce. It is so super saturating and hydrating. And we have, everybody has to ramp up. I know. When I first started taking it, it was on a Thursday afternoon. I woke up about 2 a.m. on Sunday morning, so sick I didn't know what to do. I hadn't vomited in years, and I knew I was going to vomit. I was just trying to decide, am I going to do it on the bedspread or the carpet? Well, dummy, do it on the bedspread. You can wash the bedspread. The carpet's harder to clean. I finally made it to the bathroom. I didn't vomit at all, but boy, it came out the other end. I'll tell you something. I learned to respect this water right off from the get-go, because it's very, very spectacular in its hydrating properties. I've been to Minneapolis twice, invited by a group out there, and the man who invited me was a biochemist. And I was there 3 weeks ago in Minneapolis, spending 4 days with them. This biochemist has spent his whole career behind a microscope looking at tissue samples, and particularly live blood cell samples. So he had one of these special microscopes set up. It's a high contrast microscope, and he used on this one, he used what they called a dark field filter. But he has a dark field microscope that cost him $40,000. It was custom made by Bausch & Lomb in Germany. They are licensed by Zeiss to use Zeiss technology. So they custom ground his lenses out of quartz. It was all sent to Japan for assembly. It takes up 2 tables. And this thing is so powerful, you can get down inside the nucleus of the cell and see everything. The mitochondria, everything. The macrophages, the whole bit. He can see everything in your bloodstream. And you know what he tells me? He calls me the summer of 2004 and he says, I was just reading an interview you did with a guy named Elder Hale, and he posted it on his internet site. I got 40% of the way through the interview, and quick reading, I just knew you knew what you were talking about. Tell me, is it so? Is it really so? Are you the one that's cracked the water problem? He said, everything I see under the microscope is signs of dehydration. Everything. The blood cells are clumping because of dehydration. They're stacking. The platelets are stacking like dinner plates. It's called rouleaus because of dehydration. The bone marrow is dehydrating, and you're not producing the lymphocytes and leukocytes. Your bone marrow dehydrates. You ever heard of the expression dry bones? Yes, your bones dehydrate. You can't believe what goes on inside your bone marrow. It's a complex factory. It cannot dehydrate. Now, do you wonder why people are getting sick out here? Look at all the things that are going wrong from one factor. Water you can't absorb. And this guy, 3 weeks ago, we're looking at what the microscope sees, we see on a monitor. And we're all standing around looking, just amazed at what we're looking at. What's this, Ralph? What's this, Ralph? What's this, Ralph? Oh, he says, he explains it, and he said, the actual root cause of all this is dehydration. And he says, they, referring to, you know, which profession, they know this. They know this. If you took care of that one factor, hydration, you can't imagine how many things would eventually disappear. That is problems and challenges accompanied by symptoms, which are aches and pains. Okay? All kinds of things would disappear just from getting water into your system. You're based on water. There's no water, there's no biology. There's a reason why we're supposed to be 70 to 80% water. When you die, you're down between 50 and 60% water. The elderly dehydrate to death. I don't blame them. They can't absorb the water anyway. How are you going to force feed somebody in their 80s, like my father when he died, several glasses of water a day? They're not going to drink it. But what if they knew they could completely hydrate on 1 to 2 glasses of water a day? Now I've got adults coming to me, and they're checking as completely hydrated, and they only drink 1 glass of this water a day, 1 8-ounce glass. 1 a day. And all kinds of problems have gone away. Now isn't that rather extraordinary that water would have all of those amazing properties? It just boggles my imagination. This one simple commodity is actually the basis of life, and it's the basis of life for a very good reason. If you see a cell under the microscope that's dehydrated, it has a fever. And when it has a fever, the membrane wall swells. Now you've got little nanometer-sized docking ports called receptor sites all over the cell wall. They're even smaller. Nothing can get in and nothing can get out. The cells are starving to death and they're drowning in their own waste. So he said, I've ordered a lot of water samples. They came. I enthusiastically tested them. None of them were hydrating. He told me this 3 weeks ago. He said, when I got your water, he said, I ran to the mailbox. Right away, I took a blood sample, put it on a slide. We looked at it. Had them drink a glass of water, and as soon as they drunk it, I took another blood sample. I could see it changing the blood composition immediately. Immediately. Does it happen that fast? Well, a lot of people call me and they say, there's something wrong with your water. Oh, I say, why? I can taste metals. Uh-oh. Have somebody else taste it. Well, sure enough, the other person doesn't taste the metals. Guess what? As soon as it got in your mouth, it's pulling metals from the mucosal lining into the water. You can taste it. It works that fast. One individual called my partner and said, you didn't tell me you put hydrogen peroxide in your water. And my partner said, we don't. There's no hydrogen peroxide in that water. Oh, I can taste it real strong. He said, think back. Did you ever use, oh yeah, I used a lot of food-grade hydrogen peroxide years ago. Yeah, it stores in the tissues. Did you know that? Hydrogen peroxide stores in your tissues. And this water is so efficient at hydrating, it starts pulling it right out. Isn't that amazing? So now, I'm getting these really amazing stories coming from all over the United States. People are getting these amazing results just drinking water. Now, I'm not saying water is the solution to all their problems. But it's the place where you have to start. There's other things going on that honestly the water won't address. If you've ever taken antibiotics or painkillers or really any type of pharmaceutical, you have no good bacteria left in your gut wall. And did you know that 80% of your immune system is in your intestinal tract? And that immune system is represented by bacteria. In fact, as a healthy adult, you should be carrying around at least 2 pounds of bacteria, and that's a lot of bugs. Better yet, more than 2 pounds. Because those bugs are in there to protect you and to recycle your nutrients. Most of the B vitamins you get are not in your food. They're made by bacteria. It's like you've got soil in your gut. And then they're reabsorbed through the colon wall. These bugs are making the nutrients you need by recycling junk in your body. They're our best friend. I had a man tell me the human body is a receptacle for water and bacteria. And it is. You just want to make sure it's the right kind of bacteria. Now, the water can't put those bacteria in you. But if you find a good source for those bacteria, they also thrive on the water. They love it. It helps them reestablish quicker. In fact, all living organisms love this water. There was a chemist in Los Angeles that made ginger beer every year. My partner said, try making ginger beer out of the water. He did. He said it cut the brewing time in half. And he said it was the best tasting ginger beer I've ever made. And he said, and then I realized it was also mineralizing me. Now I've had people from microbreweries say, could we make beer out of it? I said, yeah, but it would absorb so much quickly into the bloodstream, I think you might get drunk on that much beer. I don't know, I've never tried it. Because I don't make beer, but I've never done that, but that's an interesting proposition. However, there are other things besides not having bacteria. You could have a load of parasites. As a rule, there are some parasites this water would never get rid of. Because parasites have a way of coating themselves with a mucus-type coating to protect them from the enzymes of the host. It's your own enzymes that kill the parasites. So sometimes the solution to parasites is an herbal substance that will go in and compromise the mucus coating. Either that, or it's an enzyme that will go in and just blast through it and kill the parasite. But I find people full of parasites. I find their bloodstream full of amoebas, protozoans, their intestinal tract compromised. I find parasites living all over. Liver flukes, the same flukes go into the pancreas, they go into the gallbladder. Oh, we're a mess. And that all happens when your health is already seriously compromised. Then you're a good host. Then you'll support lots of nasty critters. But your health has to be compromised first. As you get your health, your level of health and wellness up there, you're much more resistant to these things. And they just won't take up residence in you. Worked on somebody the other day, eczema. Little tiny parasite living in the skin. Interesting. A parasite is like anything else. It has to eat. You provide the meal. You're a good host. It has to defecate. Takes a dump. Guess what likes its feces? Staph. All of a sudden you've got a staph infection because the staph is eating the feces of the parasite. Oh, is that a surprise? It's a food chain we live in. And instead of being at the top of the food chain, we're now ending up at the bottom of the food chain. That's not right. We're supposed to be at the top of the food chain. Your health is so seriously compromised that you're ending up as a host for all kinds of other organisms. That shouldn't happen. Oh, we can gradually, progressively change that situation. It does not happen overnight. And there may be some other things you need to do. And some of those things involve energy. Now, strictly, theoretically speaking, we can make water much more efficient at hydrating. The mathematical analog, the energy analog, the frequency analog of all the minerals your body needs in water, and according to the biochemist, your cells don't know how to fix a solid particle of mineral. They don't want to, and most of them are too big to get through the cell membrane wall anyway. You're taking mineral supplements, and as a rule, they're far bigger than a nanometer in size. They're not going to go inside the cell anyway. Well, a cell never had to have minerals in a solid form. It wants to be exposed to the energy of the minerals. That's all it wants, exposure to the energy of the minerals. And it's just fine. It doesn't need another solid particle in there because that's more waste and debris it has to get rid of. It just wants to be exposed to the energy. What if you can put the energy in water and bathe the outside of the cell and get it into the inside of the cell? The best of all worlds for the cell. It just perks up and comes to life. We see that under a powerful microscope called a dark field. We see that happening when we use this water. Cells that are practically dead coming back to life. Why? Being hydrated. They're being exposed to the correct energies. Now a cell is looking for energies. That's all nutrients are, is energy packets. In fact, there isn't anything, I hate to burst your bubble, but there isn't anything in the universe that's real. It's an illusion. It's just a waveform illusion. Everything is just energy. There is no such thing as solid matter. But it's a very nicely and carefully contrived illusion. It works for me. I like it. I'm sure you do. And you'd like to stick around in this illusion? Because it's working for us, you see? But you know what? We can make it work better for us if we just do some very simple things, but they are things that are very important. And they are actually at the root cause and the basis of a lot of our problems, like drinking water you can hydrate, like getting the minerals, in this case, in the form of energy. And that's all the cell needs. It'll do just fine because you see, The cell is a synthesizer. It'll make what it needs out of nothing but energy in the same way the natural world makes a nugget of gold, platinum, and palladium from 13 frequencies in water. You and I are doing the same thing the natural world does. Somebody did not reinvent the wheel for us. We're just an extension of something that was already going on in the natural world. Is there anybody here that this does not make any sense to, virtually? Don't be afraid to raise your hand.
What about frequencies? What makes these different frequencies?
Well, a frequency is a spatial and temporal phenomenon. From point A to point B, I have to have so many cycles per second passing from point A to point B.
So volcanoes would create a frequency? And
everything. Yeah, this fundamental particle of hydrogen here, okay? It has a frequency rate. It sits there and vibrates.
Pressure and heat and things like
Okay.
that from volcanoes would
Yeah.
create frequency.
Everything has
So
frequency.
that's what creates different stones, for instance?
Yep,
Different
that's right.
frequencies
In fact,
in water?
all of your crystals and gemstones are formed by water.
Yeah, that's what I was...
And its frequencies coming together in water. And they leave behind other energies as vibrations in those crystals. And it depends on the water the crystal was made out of. What else the water was exposed to. There are so many variables. That's why if you get into the study of mineralogy, there are so many amazing things found in the crust of the earth because of the built-in variability. The potential for all kinds of variety and variation
So the
is
different
built in.
mineral composition.
That's right, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
created by frequencies
Frequency.
in water.
Everything's frequency. Everything's frequency. There isn't anything that exists that doesn't operate off of frequency.
Yeah, but I mean the minerals themselves are created by those.
This simple hydrogen atom has a frequency, and it's really high. It's above the terahertz range. It's in the quadrillions of cycles per second range. If I add a neutron, it changes the frequency. It's not the same frequency. The neutron changes that because the neutron has more mass. If I stick something with more mass up against it, it'll change the frequency of the whole thing.
How do you put one of those in
And
your
it's all done with energy.
Oh,
It's all, a neutron can be added with pure energy. Yes?
Are you saying that you think the water will give us the calcium what we need, or iron, or whatever minerals?
Yep.
You're saying that
And-
it will
and-
decide the body will decide what it needs.
Yeah, it'll decide what it needs and use the energy to make it.
and laser is what you're using as a way to alter.
Time reverse laser. Not an ordinary laser. The particle wave goes backwards in time. It doesn't work with a conventional laser
I can't grasp that concept.
because a time reverse laser, see, you have a phase coherent beam in a laser. It's a pencil thin laser beam. You've seen them. You got a laser on, you'll spray, atomize something, and you'll see it reflect off the particles, and you'll see this pencil thin beam of light. You can't see my laser beam. It's running backwards in time. You can't see time reverse energy unless you're a very special person. Maybe God. I don't know.
But that's what creates the different frequencies.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
Are those frequencies similar to those provided by the Rife machines?
No.
The
No.
Rife machine has the energy as well.
The vibe?
Right.
Right.
Rife? No. Rife frequencies are in the radio frequency range.
I don't know.
That's in the kilohertz range. No. This is above the terahertz range. These are the frequencies of the fundamental particles, atoms. They're very high. And you can only build material substances with frequencies that high. This has nothing to do with Rife technology. Rife was exposing viruses to radio frequency. And he theorized it was like, see, a virus is a protein structure. It has a protein shell. That bird flu virus, they call it, what is it, H5N1? Yeah, H5N1. H5N1, did you know there are thousands and thousands of forms of H5N1? H5N1 is nothing but the protein shell, the protein casing. The virus is determined by the RNA or DNA on the inside. It's the perfect ruse for a man-made virus or contagion. They can decide to put anything in the shell and blame it on the bird. That's what I don't like about this whole scenario. It stinks to me. Yeah, it stinks to high heaven. But the thing is, proteins are made from amino acids. They're nothing but crystals. So the protein structure is a crystal. Rife said every crystal has its resonant frequency. If we find the resonant frequency, we can get it resonating stronger and stronger, and finally it'll do what a crystal glass does with the appropriate tone of a high enough amplitude, it'll shatter. And he was doing that. It was called the mortal oscillatory rate, and he was shattering these viruses with a radio frequency that had no effect on a healthy cell. But we worked with a medical doctor. He said that's what you call the sledgehammer approach. What you're doing is a more sophisticated approach, far more sophisticated. Rife's was a crude sledgehammer approach. Go out and beat this organism to death. Cause it to just blast it away. It breaks up in fragments. That's the sledgehammer approach. There are subtler and better ways of doing the same thing. Okay, yes?
Did you name your process of this time reverse laser? Is it
I have a name for it. I call it the geometric laser. And I'm not going to...
Is it patented?
No, I'm not going to patent it because nobody else will figure out how to do it.
Called what again?
A geometric laser. Nobody else in the universe is as weird as I am, ma'am. So, yes.
Does this have anything to do with the standing wave?
Well, yeah, a standing wave, let's say, would be a scalar wave in vacuum space. A lot of this energy I'm working with is scalar. Yeah.
So in essence, it explodes a molecule or an atom of water into small little particles.
Well, it energizes it and changes the bonding angle. As soon as the bonding angle changes, it can't support that geometry. It has to go into another geometry. It happens very rapidly. Because we know that, for instance, when you have an electron revolving around a nucleus of an atom, it releases, lets go, and reattaches. It does this every picosecond, every 1/1,000,000th of a second. That's a vibration rate.
So it doesn't
So
explode into
no,
small particles.
no, it doesn't. No.
Okay, I just recently read a book, I can't remember the author, it's from, I think, Hashimoto or...
Moto.
Dr. Emoto.
About the structure of water.
Yeah.
What would this machine do?
Well,
to the structure of water?
I give lectures on Dr. Emoto's work. He doesn't even understand what he's doing. And I'm not being
I
arrogant
just saw the
or cocky
pictures.
about
It
this.
was amazing.
Okay.
The pictures were amazing.
Back in the 1950s, there was a man named Edward Lorenz who graduated with a PhD from MIT. And he stuck around. This is in the early days of computers when they were rooms filled with vacuum tubes. And the biggest challenge was cooling the tubes, sucking the hot air out of the room with all those vacuum tubes, okay? But they were doing computer weather modeling. It was an accidental discovery. They fed some figures into a computer and went to lunch. But he forgot on the right side of the decimal point, way out here, he forgot to add a few numbers. When he came back, the results were entirely different than he suspected. And they found out that systems in nature are incredibly sensitive to initial energy conditions. That's what you call chaos theory. And it happens to all natural phenomena, especially water.
So it makes it more soluble.
Well, no,
soluble
your consciousness is actually a form of energy. You can change water with your consciousness. But that process won't lead to a technology such as Gordon and I are dealing with here. You need some thermodynamic horsepower, some leverage on thermodynamics to be able to get energy that is mathematics encoded into water. First of all, to get it down to sub-nanometer size, 4 angstrom size particles, 0.4 nanometer size particles. You need some horsepower to get it down there, some thermodynamic leverage. Once it's there, it'll support a lot of energy.
It stabilizes it.
Yeah, it stabilizes. Oh yeah, it's stable as long as you take care to do certain things. It's stable. It'll stay there indefinitely. See, when you reach thermodynamic equilibrium, you're in the most probable state. Water has now reached its most probable state. This is the least probable state. It's hard to get it into the least probable state, but once it's there, if you take care of it, it'll stay there indefinitely. If you have it in an appropriately hard container, preferably glass, but a real hard plastic will do, it'll stay in that permanent low probability state.
Unless you expose it to
Microwave. Microwave will take it out right now. He talked about microwave before. Microwave destroys all the nutrients in your food.
What about cell waves? Some phones?
No.
No.
It is not sensitive to electromagnetic waves. Not sensitive to electromagnetic. Those frequencies are too low. Okay. Okay. Let's go on here. We'll take some questions later. Now, theoretically, we've got water that's very hydrating in a sub-nano state. We can encode the mathematical analog of all the minerals your body needs. We can also encode the mathematical analog of all the vitamins your body needs, because nutrients are just energy. We can encode the mathematical analog of 12 essential cell salts, and we can encode the mathematical analog of the glyconutrients, the 8 complex sugar structures that's in the water. Then I can put all kinds of interesting energies in that your body will use as what we call biological algorithms. I provide your body a menu of frequencies, millions of them. And it's like building an equation. Your body pulls the energies out it needs to derive its own healing and repair solutions. Because it's a smart machine. It knows what it needs. But it needs energies put together in a certain sequence in a certain way. And it can do that from the menu. The water's basically a menu of energies for the body. And here you go. And I'm discovering new energies all the time, and I'm increasing the menu. So now this is a restaurant with an incredibly big menu. You could never make up your mind looking at this menu. You don't have to. Your body knows how to pick energies out of the water and utilize them in the right sequence with other energies. Smart machine. On the subconscious level, you're a lot smarter than you'll ever be on the conscious level, trust me. So, then I realized there was something else going on. Yeah, we can hydrate the body, we can provide nutrients. But did you know that the majority of your physical problems actually have an energy basis? And most of those are emotional in nature. I hate to say this. For a man, it was tough for me to admit this at first. Emotional problems are the precursor to most of our serious physical ailments. Oh, yes, they are. As a guy, you don't want to admit, I have emotional problems. You know? Oh, only women have those. Guys. Don't give me that. We're a very sensitive organism, and our emotions can be the most powerful weapon used against us. They'll actually tear us down and kill us. I've seen emotions kill a lot of people. We may be the only creature on the planet who is dealing with this conundrum. Oh, it's nice to have this emotional nature and to be able to feel these things. Yeah, if you can control it, it's nice. But if it's out of control, it's a bear. It'll turn around and eat you alive. So I was finding that a lot of people would come to me with impossible cancers. And you know what's at the basis of those cancers? An emotional trauma that they had just previously suffered or gone through. In fact, they brought a little 5-year-old girl to me with an incurable disease called cystic fibrosis. A life expectancy of 20 years. No hope. All she'll do for 20 years is cough. She can't even integrate into the human race. It was emotional in nature. I didn't realize cystic fibrosis has an emotional cause. I did something to this girl, and the next morning she quit coughing. It's been 3 years. She's a distance runner. True story. She comes to see me a couple times a year. Her name is Alicia.
Dan, that's happened twice more since we got the biologist.
Okay. Incurable diseases? Don't give me that baloney. There's no such thing as an incurable disease. Everything has a solution. If it's a problem, it has a solution. We just haven't figured out what the solution is yet. Or maybe we have. And maybe the solution means somebody won't make all the money they want to make. How about that? What if certain motives, like greed, and the lack of compassion and understanding for your fellow man stands in his way of living a quality life? Now, is that a bummer? I'll tell you, I find this to be true all the time. That's a crying shame. There are solutions for difficult, intractable problems out there. And we're running into more of them all the time because I'm always thinking about this organism. There's more about this man sitting here, this energy, than there is physical matter. He's really an energy problem. I'm not even going to think about chemistry or hormones or biology. When I approach him, I want to know what's going on with energy. I want to evaluate energy. I want to analyze the energy equation in his body. That'll tell me more than any urine sample or any blood sample will ever tell you. And the most that a blood sample is telling you is that you're dehydrated, by the way. Also, you see the white blood cells just floating there, dead on a doornail. Why? You can do that by eating white sugar. As soon as you eat a dessert, your white blood cells go comatose for 4 hours. You're putting them to sleep and you have no immune system active. If you drink a Coke, they go to sleep for 12 hours. Did you know that? That's the effect that white sugar has on your immune system and makes the white blood cells go comatose. They go into a state of rigor mortis. They're dysfunctional. Like a lot of people I know who are on sugar, by the way. Yeah. Strange, isn't it? There's things that you and I aren't being told. Well, my goodness, there's thousands of people out there every day looking through microscopes. Why don't they put this on the national news and tell us the things we need to know? Because there's no money. Somebody already bought the networks. And you see their commercials on all the time. They're not going to let this on the national networks. I have to come all the way from Montana to talk to you about it. They're never going to tell you. Gordon has to come from Houston, Texas to tell you about it. For crying out loud, what's wrong with this picture? Money gets involved and everything spirals down. You have energy problems. And I found solutions for those too, and I'm finding more solutions. I worked recently, this was my privilege to work with a gentleman from China. And he was a legitimate Qigong master. Master Michael Chen lives in Vancouver, British Columbia. He's now a Canadian citizen. He doesn't speak very good English. Slightly built man, a little taller than me, long beard, very polite, very reflective, very intelligent. He's a doctor and a Qigong master. I was invited to a think tank in Calgary, Alberta. We spent 4 days together, bouncing ideas off of one another. Turns out we realized we're all talking about the same thing, the same energy. Whether you call it prana or chi, it doesn't matter. We're all talking about the same thing. This is funny. Here's this little guy and he says, well, a heavyweight boxer, when he punches you, they've measured the force. It's a little over 700 pounds of force. And he goes like this so fast we couldn't see him move. Qigong master, 2.2 tons and no calluses. He said, I don't break it with my hand, I break it with energy. I can direct energy ahead of my hand, and my hand doesn't touch the brick. How do you do that? It must mean that we all have that capacity. We all have that kind of energy. 2.2 tons, that's 4,400 pounds. As compared to 700 for a heavyweight boxer? Oh, there's something we have to learn. There's energy. We all have energy.
Anybody can do that.
Anybody can do it. Now, he says, in China, for centuries, we recognized two things. And he drove this home for 4 days. Cause, effect. Cause and effect. Cause and effect. Here's you, the effect. What was the cause? A lady comes to him in a wheelchair, hadn't walked for years. Well, what happened to you? Tell me. Tell me your history. Looking for some incident. She couldn't think of anything. Nothing's happened to me. I can't help you. Go home. Go home. The next day she calls. She says, I remember when I was a child, I fell and bumped my... That's it. Come in. You bumped your head. Come in. Come in. She says, oh, this is ridiculous. You can't be serious. Yeah, I'm serious. Come in. Come in. She goes in. Yeah, there's an energy blockage. Every time you hurt yourself, there's a blunt force trauma, a cut, a break, a scrape, or anything. You're damaging cells, and you're damaging a field around the cells. And that damage will stay there permanently, and it blocks the flow of energy. He takes his hands and he moves energy, and she gets out of the wheelchair and walks. Is that a miracle? No. That's the correct application of the right principles. That's not a miracle. It's the proper application of the correct principles. That's all it is. It's not a miracle. We're not miracle workers. I'm definitely not a miracle worker.
Well, that's what it's called.
That's what it's called, because miracles are things we don't understand. But now we're beginning to understand these things. You are surrounded by a sophisticated energy field. In fact, 7 energy fields. They are all internested in the same space-time domain. One exists inside the other. They're all frequency discrete, so one doesn't interfere with the operation of the other. But information can transfer from one field to the next. And they all exist in hyperdimensions. Now don't worry about this. I refer to this not as chi, prana, or the energy field. I refer to it as the hyperfield, because it's made of hyperdimensional energy fields. It's composed of a form of light. The United States Navy did an experiment with something called a SQUID. Do you know what a SQUID is? It's an acronym, stands for Subquantum Interference Device. And they found that at room temperature, human beings superconduct. Did you know that you superconduct at room temperature? To get a superconducting element to work, you have to lower the temperature. But you superconduct at room temperature. That's because every cell in your body is like a laser, and it puts out multiple frequencies of light simultaneously from the membrane wall. And all of these cells contribute to the production of an energy field. It's like a template. It's like an energy blueprint of you. So when Dr. Robert O. Becker wrote the book, The Body Electric, he made a statement in there that nobody will touch. I've never seen anybody refer to this statement. He says that DNA cannot possibly explain the difference between any two individuals. In turn, DNA must have a control mechanism, and it does. DNA is expressing information encoded in a holographic field. In fact, based on the work of Marion Diamond at UCLA and Dr. Robert Pribram at Stanford, I began to realize in the mid-90s, the human brain doesn't store information. That was never its function. There is nothing stored up here. It's an access device and a translator. It's accessing information stored in a field. And it's all stored visually. As a picture, it's a hologram. They confirmed this with work they were doing at Duke University. Now recently, not that long ago, a couple years ago, the American Psychiatric Association published an article in their journal, and they were doing research on near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences. And you know what they discovered? When brain activity shuts down to a certain level, your consciousness drifts into the field where it originates in the first place. And you can actually see yourself from outside of yourself. You actually obtain consciousness outside of the brain, in the field. But that's where the consciousness originated in the first place. It's an energy field, and his little device here, pivoting device, is picking up on that energy field. It's real energy. It will change the structure of water, as Dr. Moto has discovered. But you can't create a water that you can sell to thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people. There's not enough horsepower to affect the thermodynamics of water. What Emoto is showing you is little tiny snowflakes that are made of millions of water particles. But you know what? The natural world does it all the time. Every snowflake is different, and they're all fractal patterns. Emoto's work is showing you fractal patterns. And all he's showing you is how sensitive water is to initial energy conditions. Even a prayer over water will change it. You can consciously change the structure of that frozen fractal pattern through either thinking positive thoughts or negative thoughts.
Yeah, and I think I can give them a visual picture to prove that.
Okay.
Where's that chocolate bar?
Okay, this is good.
You know that this chocolate has absolutely no food value in it. There's nothing in it. It's processed to death. There's nothing. Where's my little gadget? Thank you. I need a table surface or something to put this on.
Sure.
I think that's.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm
that's
trying to get this closer.
Will this work?
Here. I'll just turn this around. I think most of you can see it. Set it right there. Look at this. There is no value there. It just goes right up to it. Absolutely nothing to it. Now, this is not a religious meeting, but I want you to see this. Heavenly Father, I ask you to restore this food to the condition that you made it for us. I want you to make it just like if we were eating it raw in the Garden of Eden. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah.
Prayer works. You've got visual proof of it now.
It'll change the energy field of foods and of humans.
Now, if that was a plate of food, I could have got the aura out
of
too
good
quick.
nutrition, then
Yeah.
if you take that water, it makes it more saturating.
Yeah, now it begins
Not
to
just that, an aura.
begins to change the whole energy equation of your body.
The energy is just
Yeah.
saturation.
Yeah.
Even if I'm taking the supplements, how
Gas.
Oh yeah, if you're taking supplements, it's like a catalyst. It'll make all the foods you eat work better, all the supplements you eat work better.
Even more than saturation, it's like even more than a gas, it's an energy.
Yeah, it's energy saturation.
Yeah.
Coming in the
That's
form,
amazing. So
in the
that's
perfect
even better.
delivery system, the first perfect delivery system, water. Because water's got to go everywhere. You'd be surprised at first water won't go everywhere. That's how tight some of your tissues are.
But you're talking about aura because that's energy outside of the water. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean. That's amazing. Now it's a gas.
Now let's see. Do I have a volunteer? Anybody want to volunteer for something? Okay, he'll volunteer.
Really, I want to try to grasp what you're saying. So it's
Okay, now we're going to demonstrate something. Lock into this. This is important. Okay, he has an energy field around him, but this energy field is a lot more sophisticated than we think it is. Now I want to show you something. I'm going to test this guy. I'm going to have him put a little finger and thumb together, make an energy loop. Now lock this muscle so I can't push it down. Look straight ahead. Okay, now the back of my hand is negatively charged. The front is positive. You're polarized like that. I'm going to touch him right here with the back of my hand, and he's as strong as a horse. If I touch him with the front of my hand, he goes weak. See the difference? I can push him down with one finger. Now watch this. I am not testing the strength of this muscle. It has nothing to do with strength. I'm testing the energy flow, balance, and distribution in the body. I'm going to scan him. No problem. He's strong as a horse. I'll scan him back here. I'll go back here. But if I go right back here, he gets weak. Do you know why? Sit down. Okay, thank you. This test works because we're evaluating energy. It has nothing to do with muscle strength. You can do it on somebody that practically has no muscle mass. You can also do it on a really big, strong guy like this. Same results. That's because muscles are told how to contract by the brain from signals coming down to the central and peripheral nervous system. A muscle has 3 contractions: concentric, eccentric, and passive. The muscle enjoys the status of never being able to rest. It has no turn-off mode. If you're woken up suddenly at night, you're on your feet going, right? Muscles are instantly responsive to a signal coming from the brain. Why? Because the energy that makes the muscle contract doesn't come from the brain. It comes through a field. And I just cut off the flow of energy to the deltoid muscle. And if I could see that energy field, it's incredibly complex with streams of energy flowing in and out of the body, threading in and out of the body everywhere. And that's how all the muscles are energized. The meridian channels do not distribute energy. The meridian channels bring in information. They're nature's version of a fiber optic cable. A lot of the things that go wrong with us is because we get distortions in this field, and the distortions block the information from getting to the cells. And there is, in reality, only one disease: cellular malfunction. The cells malfunction. They can malfunction in many different ways, and we give that a name. We call that a disease, which is nothing but a specific set of symptoms, which is nothing but a specific type of cellular malfunction. So we take it to the Queen of England. She puts the sword on either side on the shoulders and knights it, and officially now it's Sir whatever, acid reflux disease. It used to be just heartburn, but now it's been knighted as official disease, so now we can sell lots of drugs in behalf of Sir Knight acid reflux disease. Okay? So, see how this works? It's all nonsense. It's all baloney. It's all gobbledygook. It's all semantics. They're playing with our minds. There's only one disease: cellular malfunction. And as soon as you block energy to the cells, they malfunction. You know why? Because the energy contains information that the cell needs to function. And I can distort or block that information. The cells get sick. They don't know what to do. Inside the cells are little molecular-sized machines that perform precise functions. They do it over and over again very quickly. They do it over and over again. They never make a mistake. How does a molecular-sized machine know what to do? Where is its awareness or cognizance? The answer is it's responding to a program at the subquantum state. Your energy field is our program. Does a computer work without a program? No. The hardware is useless without a program, and so is your body. It's useless without the program. So this energy field is a sophisticated subquantum program that tells all of the chemistry how to unfold, all of the biology, all of the physiology, how to unfold and go forward and function. That's how we're operating. And there are so many things that can block the energy, set up blockages, and this is what the Qigong master and his predecessors have been finding for centuries. It's all caused by energy blockages. So somebody comes to me and they have a cancer raging inside of them. I'll find some energy anomaly, shut it down, and the cancer dies immediately. Like that. In the snap of a finger. It's no longer growing. You know why? It was feeding off of an energy anomaly. Those cells couldn't get the correct information in the first place. So they went errant. And their function is now distorted. All I do is restore the flow of correct information to the cell. Bingo. Now the cancer cell can't operate either because he was functioning off of incorrect energy. People, open your minds. Start thinking outside of that box. There's more potential here than you could ever imagine. There is so much potential here, I can't sleep at night sometimes. And we're just on the edge of it. We're just beginning. This is an exciting journey. I could sit here and keep you here all night until tomorrow morning, telling you story after story of things that have happened to people on this water, and using this silly energy card that I created. And you wouldn't believe some of these stories. They just go on and on and on. What's the secret? Correct. Go ahead.
I ask a question? Not to scare anybody, but I just have to think that this knowledge that you understand and how to deal with this, if this knowledge gets in the wrong hands, it can be tremendously dangerous.
Yeah, that's been on my mind too. Yeah.
How could it be bad, though?
He's using it for good.
Well, I mean, anybody that takes it, they just get benefits. I don't see how they.
Well, that's true.
What?
You can't make the water bad.
Yeah, if you're going to take it, it gets in the wrong hands, and you're just going to be healthier
Yeah.
people.
These products
Maybe not be
yeah,
as murderous.
yeah, these
if anything.
these products cannot be used in
Slip it to
a
the
dili-
terrorists, so they
a-
might not have the emotional
maybe we
instability.
straighten them out.
Yeah.
End war, yeah. But it doesn't. These cannot have a deleterious effect. They have no potential for that. It's impossible.
So that, I don't see this.
But what I'm thinking of, what was brought to my mind is I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and there was a gynecologist from the University of Michigan. And her issue was that I wasn't published, and this information wasn't out there everywhere. And I said the reason why is because I'm too young to go to prison and I'm too young to die. And I said, that's your profession's problem. The rest of us are running scared because we know somebody else doesn't want you to know the truth. If you've got the truth, that doesn't mean you can go out in the streets and shout it to the rooftops. You got to shut your mouth if you got the truth. So we put on discreet meetings like this and hope it'll pass from person to person. Yes?
You might read Gary Trudeau's book. It said the same thing.
I read both versions. And Trudeau is right on the money.
Yeah. You get one there right there.
So
Yeah.
getting into the wrong hands is not an issue then.
Anything can happen at any time. But you got to come to Montana to get me, and I've got my redneck friends around me, and they have bumper stickers that say, you can have my guns when you pry them out of my cold dead fingers. We had a carload of mafia come to Helena years ago to do a job. They found them all dead out in the hills. These boys you don't come into their turf and mess with them, see. And I'm not saying I'm threatening anybody. I just know there's a network of guys in Montana that know that I'm sensitive and they're looking out for me. They're not going to allow any baloney. You come into Montana, you take your chances. That's a big state. There's a lot of places to hide. These guys don't care. They know all this garbage going on behind the scenes. And there's going to come a time in the future when somebody is going to have to make a stand anyway. And if you want to just go passively into this horrible police state, that's your business. But I know a lot of guys that don't want to, and that's where it's headed. So anyway, we developed this thing called a biodisc. It's a card. Does anybody have a female size, a lady size biodisc? Yeah. Gordon got one.
We can get a break on hand out some water.
Okay.
You pick the time.
Okay. Now, anybody want me to shut my mouth so they can? I've only been talking for an hour and a half, and that's unprecedented for me. In Ann Arbor, I gave 2 talks. One was 3 hours, and the other was 2.5. For 3 hours, I talked about water alone, and for 2.5 hours, just this. Guess how much better I'm getting at this. I have condensed it, I have accelerated it, and everybody's standing there with their eyes crossed or sitting there going, what? I must be getting better. Anyway, if you look at this in the light, you'll see a little bump in here. There's a 1-inch diameter metal alloy disc. It's a very special metal alloy that has no magnetic properties whatsoever. I found out how to put this into a high quantum state, a high energetic state. And when it goes into that high energetic state, it gets polarized, but it's not magnetic. It's an atomic polarity. So one side of that disk should point toward your body and the other away from your body. So here's Leonardo da Vinci's drawing of the Vitruvian Man, and he's the guardian looking out for you. He is always pointing out. And the geometry is functional. As the energy from the disk passes through the geometry, it creates a diffraction pattern. It patterns virtually. And we've had people in pain for years, have tried everything on the market. Nothing touched their pain until they got this silly little card. Now they're almost virtually pain-free, just wearing this thing. Because it was calculated between the energy and the geometry to set up a diffraction pattern that would go in and neutralize a lot of energy blockages in your field. Now, I went beyond that. I developed something called the BioQuark. And I don't think we have any here tonight, but they're little plastic overlays that you tape on this side of the card. There's 8 of them, and you wear 1 per day for 8 days. It's an 8-day program. And it's based on something that Werner Heisenberg came up with in the 1930s, working with Niels Bohr. And they were trying to model the spectrum of the electron shell around the atom. And they were trying to predict what they would see in the spectrum of an atom mathematically. And he developed a matrix that did a beautiful job of predicting it. And they eventually called it matrix mechanics. He hated that name. And along came another brilliant German physicist named Max Born, And Max Born pointed out to Werner Heisenberg, all that is, Werner, is matrix calculus. So using matrix calculus, I developed a set of matrices. They're hard to see, but there's a matrix printed on there on clear film. And if you take and attach that to the front of the card and wear the card,
White background. Makes it
okay,
easier to
maybe
see.
white background. Maybe a white background makes it easier to see. Yeah, there's a matrix. And they're all different. There's 8 of them. It was based on a theory that as you get older, I can test you and your body will tell me how many energy blockages you've accumulated in your life. And for an adult, it's around 2,000, upwards of 25, 26, 2,700 energy blockages. The problem is I can't reach in and just pull out any specific energy blockage and get rid of it that might be causing a problem, because they get involved with one another and form an energy matrix. It's like a spider weaving a complex web. So to get these energy blockages out of your field, you have to think of it as a tapestry, where you've got this beautiful picture of your life on this tapestry, and some joker takes this ugly colored thread and he starts weaving a picture on this tapestry over the top of your tapestry. He keeps going your whole life weaving this ugly picture so you can't clearly see the story of your life. When you get over here, here's the end of the thread. This whole thing is woven out of one thread. To get it to come out, you've got to start at the end of the thread and pull it in reverse sequential order backwards in time to get it all out. It's like a Rubik's Cube. If you take a puzzle like a Rubik's Cube and go at it the wrong way, you'll never solve the problem. It has to be gone, you have to approach it in the right sequential order to solve the problem. In this energy problem in the human energy field, or what I call the biofield sometimes when I talk to people, hyperfield, is just such a construction. It's an energy waveform construction. So I developed those, and some really interesting things are happening. People are going through some powerful, what we call retracing or regression phenomenon. You go backwards in time and you experience things that you experienced in the past. Let's say you broke your leg, and all of a sudden, one day, that break in your leg that you haven't felt for years, it feels so bad you can barely walk, and you're going, now what's going on? You're retracing. You're eliminating the energy blockage around the breakage. This is what the Qigong master is after. Every time you damage yourself, you leave residual damage in the field. And then that damage becomes the greatest blockage to healing and repair. Now it's a self-defeating process to correctly heal and repair because of the blockage in the energy field. The cells need correct information. They need to see the template correctly to know what they're doing in the scheme of things and where they belong and how they should function. If it's distorted by an energy distortion, an anomaly, a blockage, then you don't get correct healing and repair. This is designed within, after the 8-day program, within about 8 weeks, you should test as having no energy blockages, 0 energy blockages. And then we're dealing with a couple other problems that are easily solvable. One is that that same energy will be retained by the protons in every atom in your body, because a proton is like a capacitor. It will charge with energy, and most of this energy is informational. So I developed a technique that's strange, really strange. When you get about 12 weeks, not 8 weeks, but 12 weeks away from finishing this program, you're going to do the strangest darn thing you've ever saw in your life. Watch this. You're going to send conflicting waveforms down your central nervous system, and your body don't like this. The waveforms that come from the 2 hemispheres of the brain are slightly different, and it does not like to process waveforms but from both hemispheres simultaneously. So you're going to take one arm and make a windmill going forward, and the other one has to go backwards at the same time. And I tell people to do that, and they just can't do it. But once you've done it, it becomes easy. Okay, you can do that. And then you've got to reverse the other side, this one backwards, this one forward. You do it for 30 seconds per side. Now, nobody can do this. So you get a friend to help you. Come up here. I need a volunteer. Now, this young lady and I got to know each other yesterday, so she's going to do this, and I'm going to say, make a windmill and go forward with this one. You don't have to go fast, just go forward. Then I'll help her and I'll take her backwards with this one. Isn't that hard? Okay, you can. Thank you. So as you see, there's a way around everything. You send this conflicting energy down the central nervous system, goes out through the peripheral, reaches every cell in the body, and all the atoms of all the molecules, and the energy in the proton dissipates. Now you end up with all that energy out of all the protons and all the atoms in your body. Then the next thing is something strictly theoretical. I'm working on something called a xenon coil, extrapolating backwards in time. There was a time when a lot of us know, there is no doubt in our minds, about 4,000 years ago there was a global flood that did a lot of damage on this planet, wholesale destruction. And before that flood, we have evidence that humans were living for hundreds of years. And that's just not from the biblical record, even though the biblical record appears to be absolutely accurate. We have evidence, we have skeletons in the basement of the British Museum of men and women who lived for hundreds of years. They studied the composition of their teeth. There was nothing wrong with their teeth, nothing wrong with the enamel. They were worn down to the gum line from long usage. They lived for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. And those people enjoyed an advantage we don't enjoy. They were living under conditions where the second law of thermodynamics was retarded, it was slowed down, and they were breathing a different mixture of atmospheric gases. They were breathing 65% nitrogen, 22% oxygen, and 10% xenon. Now, if this man here would be so kind as to volunteer one more time, I'll demonstrate something to you. There's a point on the body where you can test for this. I'll put his little finger. This is your electrical circuit. It always makes this more sensitive. Okay, now, down here on this side of the body is a point for parasites. Fortunately, he doesn't have parasites. I'd go over here and check for spirochete. I'd go over here and bingo, he caves in. You know what that is? That checks the charge of your central nervous system. Your central nervous system is like a battery and it discharges over time. If you want to do some work, what do you have to apply to get work done? Energy. If you don't have energy to do the work, I don't care how hydrating the water. You can't get the job done in the body. So the xenon coil will charge the central nervous system. It's a very simple device, and it's in the creation stages. So on the drawing board, I'm looking for materials, but have a seat. Thank you very much. But I think we're getting it down to where we understand the body's needs and requirements, what's going wrong, and how to intervene, how you can intervene in your own behalf. We don't do anything for you. You do it yourself. And the most important thing I'm doing here tonight, the most important thing I'm doing tonight is imparting some knowledge to you, but you have to apply it. I can't do it for you. So I'm telling you to take charge of your own health. Take control. Don't ever give control to someone else. I don't give control to a doctor. I don't give control to a psychologist. I don't give control to a psychiatrist. I might give control to somebody who does the same thing I do. But I never have health problems. So there's never been any reason to give control to anybody. I'm in charge. For that reason, I have no health insurance by choice. I have an accident policy to insure me against the unforeseen. But when it comes to my day-to-day health, that's my responsibility, not the doctor's. It's nobody's responsibility but yours. Your health is your responsibility. It doesn't belong to me, the doctor, the chiropractor, or anybody. It's your responsibility. You got to take control. This is what I do. I come out. Hopefully we can start some people on that journey and say you can recover your health. You can probably be as healthy as you want to be. But it's a journey. You got to do some work. It's not very hard. We're making it as simple as possible. We're making it as simple as we possibly can.
Dan, I was going to say maybe touch on how it was before, how you had your own.
Oh, I've had my own issues. I've had my emotional trauma. Yeah, 20 years ago, divorced, lost 3 sons I haven't seen in 18 years. I had pancreatic cancer, and then I had a brain tumor.
And now,
Now I'm 59 years old. I had my blood pressure taken about a month ago. It was 100 over 54. And I work out. I'm back to lifting heavy in the gym. I have not an acre of pain in my body. I feel great. And I have no health issues. I'm hydrated.
54, you said?
59.
Oh, 59.
I'm going on 60. Yeah.
and I hope you don't mind, just because a lot of people say, well, you don't know what it's like. Well,
Oh, I know what it's like. I've been there. I've had all the problems you can imagine. I've been riddled with parasites. I've gotten rid of parasites. I had scoliosis. I had horrible back problems that went on for years. I've experienced it all, people. When I talk to you about these things, it's not that I haven't experienced them. I have. I know what it's like to have aches and pains. Back spasm so bad I could not stand up. Could not get out of bed. From that and definite scoliosis, I've got the x-rays to prove it. Today, where my spine is nice and straight, all the discs are just perfect. I feel great. I can get out and I can run, and I don't do any aerobic exercise. I can run and I don't get winded. I get bored, but I don't get winded.
Dan, you have a volunteer right now for a demonstration,
And what demonstration?
so that you can do your scanning on a person.
Well, if somebody wants to volunteer, we'll just do one person.
Yeah,
Then we should take a break.
that's what we are doing. We are doing it.
One person and then a break.
One person volunteer, and this person has to be.
I guess I'm volunteering.
Okay. Come on out, sir. Oh, this will be great.
I'm dirty. I've been working all day. And I
No, that's fine. What's your name?
Jeff Hollander.
Dan Nelson, Jeff. Good to meet you. I think you should take your glasses off and you just have you put them right here on this chair. Now, I developed my own method for doing this. Very simple but effective. Helped a lot of people in 25 years. So, Jeff, I'm just going to use you to do an energy analysis. It has nothing to do with muscle strength. I'm going to analyze the flow, balance, distribution of energy in your body. I'm going to check your polarity first. Your polarity is correct. Central meridian energy goes this way, but it does not go that way. Okay, you're a good test. I'm going to check your funnel, your parietal ridge, your sphenoid, temporal, occipital. Make sure you don't have any skull plates that are misaligned. I'm going to check your hormone balance, your pH, salt, sugar. If you had cerebral palsy, you'd get weak there. If you had Alzheimer's, you'd get weak there. If you had a brain parasite, you'd get weak there. Tay-Sachs-Pompey syndrome. Chemical toxicity. This man, Jeff, has a systemic infection. I don't know what it is. Let's go search. Now, he has a systemic infection. This is not diagnosis. It's an analytical tool. Okay, this is what your body's telling me. Show me your belly button, please. Where is it? Right in there. Okay, good. There he is. Okay, I want to know if you have a yeast infection, virus. You got a viral infection. Bloodborne? Yes, bloodborne. You have a bloodborne viral infection. You have no good bacteria left in your intestinal tract. Okay? So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to try, lock that muscle, and just check an energy center. Here's one here that goes clockwise. See what happens if I go counterclockwise? See how weak you get? If I go clockwise, you get really strong. Here's one in your throat, clockwise. The heart goes clockwise in man and counterclockwise in women. Otherwise, they all go clockwise, solar plexus, stomach, and root. The heart goes counterclockwise in a woman and clockwise in a man. Otherwise, the crown, the third eye, throat, solar plexus, stomach, and root go clockwise in both sexes. And goes clockwise in a man, the heart does, and counterclockwise in a woman. Okay, they're all going the right direction. So I have to ask, does he have a frequency 8? Yeah. All of these energy vortexes are doorways to hyperdimensional fields. And each one of these is represented by a frequency, a number. One is frequency 8, 14, 20, 23, 28, 38, 144. Now, some people won't have those numbers at all. I'll ask for the number and they'll just cave in. If that's the case, their frequency shifted. you'll find that children that have Down syndrome are frequency shifted. People who are schizophrenic are frequency shifted. Your frequencies can actually shift. We call it phase shifting in physics. You'll phase shift so bad that the body is breaking down in every respect, in every regard. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go up above the navel here and over, see if he has a fungus. No. Mold, parasite, spirochete. And on the bottom of the rib cage here, no, he doesn't have a herpes virus. Okay, so he's got a viral infection. It's not herpes. Okay? All kinds of different forms of herpes. A lot of us have it. If you had chicken pox, you got herpes. If you had mononucleosis, you have herpes. Okay? And shingles is herpes. Okay? There's different varieties of the same organism. Okay. So now I'm going to check this man here and here. He has a problem on this side of his body. I'm going to check him here, here. This is for staph infection, strep. I go to the lung point, check his heart. I'm going to pulse his heart. I'm going to start at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. His heart pulses to 9. It should pulse to 12. I'm going to go to the hemoglobin point, coronary, and this man has coronary blockage in his arteries. He's got plaque. Yeah. Now, I'm going to ask, what kind of plaque is it? Is it based on calcium? No. Aluminum phosphate. It's the same plaque that shows up in the brain of someone with Alzheimer's. Aluminum phosphate is oftentimes building up in the coronary arteries, the carotid, and the brain. That's what causes Alzheimer's. Aluminum phosphate plaque. Guys, you know this, metallic aluminum doesn't compound with other elements, it only alloys. You make a magnesium aluminum alloy wheel. But it does not compound with other elements. However, aluminum is the most abundant element in the crust of the earth. And it makes all kinds of compounds. And if you get into the study of mineralogy, there's all kinds of aluminum compounds. That's a pre-metallic unstable isotope of aluminum. That's what's causing Alzheimer's. But I know 2 people married for many years, close to 60 years. One of them came down with a raging case of Alzheimer's and died, and the other one never got Alzheimer's. And the question is why, and I'll show you why. I'm going to check him for frequency 8, and on a scale of 0 to 10, where 10 is maximum, is it at a 10? Yes. Frequency 14, is it a 10? Yes. Frequency 20, is it a 10? Yes. Frequency 23, is it a 10? Yes. If you have no 23, you'll have cancer. People with cancer have no frequency 23. These protection numbers, they denote the integrity of the information in your fields. The lower the number, the more the lack of integrity of the information in the fields. Okay, frequency 28, okay, is it a 10? Yeah, so he's not, okay, he's not showing up as having heavy metal poison, but he does. He has aluminum phosphate plaque in his arteries. Frequency 38, is it a 10? That's higher mental and emotional stability. And frequency 141, that's your immune system. His is good and strong. Is it a 10? Yeah. So his primary problem is he's got some plaque building up in the coronary arteries. Just to be sure, I'll check his spleen, his pancreas, kidney. I'm going to go down to prostate, bladder, transverse colon, descending colon, ascending colon. I'm going to go up to small intestine, stomach. That's his problem, his coronary artery blockage. So what does he do? I'll show you something interesting. This is my water, right? Okay. Sir, put your arm up, be strong. I'll get you to hold that, please.
Water.
That's
That's just regular drinking water.
Oh, okay.
Give me a bottle of that back there in the corner, please.
Okay.
That's going to be the concentrate. We don't have any mix.
Oh, well, yeah. Give me both of them. This is the concentrate. Okay. And that's drinking water. Okay, I know which is which. Okay, put your arm up. Okay, hold on to this drinking water. Okay, here's the coronary point. Okay, hold on to this water. Here's the coronary point. See the difference in strength? I'm pushing hard. Okay, it's telling me it'll address your problem. It'll take the plaque out. In fact, it was designed to do that. It'll take a lot of heavy metals out of your body. Okay. Yeah, for now, yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
That's about $10,000 worth of,
$10,000 worth of amount.
And it's too simple, isn't it?
Call the coroner.
It's too simple. So now he knows what he has to work on, what he has to work on. But this other profession says, no, let us do it. And boy, when we're done, will you be sick?
Let's go ahead.
Let's take a break. Oh yeah, one more.
I just wondered if you could test female also.
Well, we're going to take a break right now. Yeah, we'll do that later.
Yeah,
Stay
we'll do
there.
that.
Stay there for a minute. Stay there for a minute.
Done.
As you get up for your break, go outside.
You're gonna
We're
go and
get
eat.
everybody
You're gonna
involved
go and eat
with
with
our
Karen.
break.
Never put it to work. You might as well stayed home. Are there any questions? Let's take questions. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
There's a big issue about plastic, drinking on plastic.
Yeah.
I mean, you should drink
The water, the only practical way to ship the water was in plastic. If we got involved with glass, it would have been a nightmare.
because it gets hot.
No, and it gets cold, freezing issues.
But I mean, when it gets hot, there's toxins that come out of the plastic.
Well, some of the plastics are incredibly stable, and our plastic is what we call PETE. It's a pharmaceutical grade plastic.
PET?
Yeah,
PETE. Like
PETE, peat. Number one, PETE, pharmaceutical grade.
It's on the bottom.
Now, we've done some analysis our own on the water. I had water in my garage for 4 years. And in the wintertime, it was, I kept it from freezing. But it was down there near freezing. In the summertime, it was well over 100 degrees. And that went on for a long period of time. And could detect no leaching of plastic into the water. Well, some plastics are not stable, I agree with that, and they're dangerous.
It still kept the amount, the volume, it kept
Yep,
it from
kept all the
evaporating out
energy,
and all
kept
that.
everything, yeah. There was no problem.
Same small, small.
Same small particles, yeah.
Angstrom.
Yeah, angstrom.
You know, in the interest of everything dear to us, if something were to happen to you, and you wanted to, maybe the only person that knows about this process, do you have anything provided for passing on the knowledge?
Yeah, I do. There are some people real close to me, and I've revealed some things to them.
Sir, how many thousands or millions times smaller than a particle of water is 4 angstroms?
Well, the micron is a millionth of a meter. You know what a meter stick is? About 39 inches. 1 million, divided into a million pieces. Okay, the nanometer is 1 billionth. Divide that 1,000 times smaller into a billion. And this is 0.4 nanometers. 4/10 of 1 millionth, or 1 billionth of a meter. But we're getting down to atomic in size.
Like trillions.
Yeah,
Smaller than water.
atomic in size.
Wow.
Now, some really observant person, or somebody really on the ball said, I know what you're doing. You're stopping short of turning water into a gas. Yeah. There is a gaseous form of water, it's called Brown's gas. And you can use it to weld dissimilar metals together. You can weld aluminum and stainless steel together with Brown's gas. It's done with a catalyzer, and it has a tremendous electron potential when you turn it into a gas. Unbelievable electron potential. It's actually good for people, Brown's gas is. But we're stopping short, so all of my particles are, does everybody know what tetrahedron is? It's a 4-sided polygon. There's 4 molecules that make up a tetrahedron. You know what a cube is? 6-sided polygon. And there are 8 particles, and then there's the dodecahedron. It's a little more complex. All the particles come down to those configurations in a particular ratio. And there's a reason for that. Just like there's a reason for why when water freezes into a snowflake or frost on your window, how many sides will the fractal pattern form? 6 sides.
For a crystal.
Yeah, it's always hexagonal. Well, people assume because water always freezes into a hexagonal shaped structure that in the liquid phase it forms a hexagonal ring. That's absolutely bogus reasoning. There's no basis for that in reality. There are people out there selling water and they swear to God it's in a hexagonal shaped ring. The reason why water is so fluid, and you can dive into water and it'll part if you make yourself hydrodynamic, is because the water particles are rolling around one another like ball bearings. That's why water has the amazing qualities it has, and then they're held together by appropriate atomic molecular forces. So water affords just the right amount of resistance, and yet it allows you to part it and swim through it.
So you could actually sink quicker into this if it was a pool of water.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, interesting conjecture.
Like a rock. Ball like a rock.
Maybe it would be probably afford a little bit less resistance, yeah, to swimming in it. You could probably go faster in it, yeah.
You couldn't you take test the dynes for the surface tension, because it must have a lower surface tension.
Yeah, it's around 50 dynes per centimeter. Yeah.
The ocean is already easier to swim in than pool water. I mean, you go like on an ocean, man, it's like you're on a kayak and you're swimming.
Flanagan's water was up in the high 50s, I believe. Normal water is right around 73.
73, 78.
Yeah. Yeah, it has lower surface tension, and we haven't put any chemicals in the water. No chemical adulteration, nothing but energy. So the surface tension, that is the interfacial tension, is lower, but that doesn't make water better at hydrating. I don't care how low the surface tension is. The water will not hydrate you better. It's a function of the size of the particle. It has to be down there smaller to get through the membrane wall. I've had hours of discussions with a biophysicist, and he tells me, well, everything has to be down to a nanometer in size to get through the cell membrane wall. Those little tiny molecular size portals called receptor sites, little tiny docking ports that allow things to go in the cell and toxins to come out of the cell, they're right around a nanometer in size. If the cell is dehydrated, it gets a fever, the membrane wall swells, and they get even smaller. Now it's really tough to hydrate after the cell already has a fever. Even on nanometer sized particles, it's tough to hydrate.
And this is like
We've got,
0.4.
they're all sub-nanometer in size. All of the particles in the water are sub-nanometer. Saturates. Yep.
The whole issue of dementia, I remember the physician told me when my mother's brain was looked at that the ventricles are getting larger and the brain is getting smaller. The ventricles, being the water-filled portions of the brain. And it makes sense that if the tissues are shrinking from dehydration, that the ventricles are getting larger.
Because the water can't get out of them. It can't get out of the ventricles.
Well, how does it get in?
Well, they're channels, basically. Yeah,
And also,
the water can be channeled in. That doesn't mean it can get out through the tissues. Yeah.
Plus the tissues in the body are shrinking, right? Because
Yeah.
of dehydration.
Then there's pressure, and they swell. The ventricles swell because of pressure. You can't force that water through. You take normal water, you can't force it through a membrane.
They're correlating that with dementia, and I don't know if it's a cause and effect.
Well,
they're correlating it somehow.
Dementia involves dehydration of the brain, and as the tissues shrink, it restricts circulation in the brain. There's a restriction of circulation. Alzheimer's is different. When I was checking this gentleman, I asked about a frequency 28. Now, as a rule, people who have this plaque buildup in their brain, the aluminum phosphate, or they're holding on to any heavy metal, have no frequency 28. It's like a protection number. If you have a real high presence of frequency 28, you won't hold on to heavy metals, even exposed to them. Your tissues won't hold them. Your body will flush them out. Low 28, Alzheimer's. So, this is a true story, a couple married for over 60 years. She comes down with Alzheimer's and dies with a raging case of Alzheimer's. He doesn't get it. Why? He was a licensed Swedish masseur. They believed in health as much as anybody here. They grew their own organic food in their own garden. They were very careful about what they ate. In the end of her life, she lost frequency 28. To what? Emotional instability. He retained it, and he wouldn't hold on to the aluminum phosphate. She would, no frequency 28. So now we had several people come out of Alzheimer's drinking the water. And at first it was a mystery, because within about 2 weeks they showed up with an ungodly level of manganese in their body. We couldn't figure out where the manganese was coming from, because the mineral energy in the water is balanced, and your body won't produce an excess of energy from the energy in the water. It only uses what it needs. It turned out that this is what was happening. This was a little difficult to accept at first, but it's true. Aluminum, I believe, aluminum is, magnesium is atomic number 12, and aluminum is atomic number 13. There you have a need for 2 isotopes of magnesium, and one of them is isotope 27 and the other is 28. Now, an animal's brain can't sustain isotope 27, makes him go loco, goes crazy. His brain is not complex enough. The human's brain needs isotope 27. So, these two elements were coming together. 12 and 13 is what? 25, which is manganese. They were coming together and forming manganese. The energy of magnesium 12 was coming together with the aluminum and aluminum phosphate, forming manganese, and the phosphorus was breaking off and going its merry way, and the manganese would build up in the body and it would drop through 2 unstable isotopes. One had a half-life of about 8 hours, and the other had a half-life, 8 days, and the other had a half-life of about 8 hours. And bingo, the body would pass the manganese out, and bingo, that's the end of the problem. The plaque would come out of the brain. We had a guy that was on the water for 4 months, and we got to thinking, there's no way it's ever going to work on him. And one morning he just woke up completely normal, like he'd been in a coma for all those years. He asked his wife, "What day is it? What's going on today?" She was beside herself. He just, bam, like that. One morning he woke up out of Alzheimer's. Oh, does it happen? Yeah, it happens, yeah. Yes.
What about if you juice organic celery juice or something like that? Does that hydrate more than water would?
No. Maybe the water in plants is distilled, but the particle size is no smaller. Watermelon will only let a certain particle size water in, right?
Celery, I always thought celery was balanced.
You'll find that the water in fruits and vegetables is basically distilled, correct? Yeah. But not necessarily is the particle size smaller. However, with watermelon, which also is very sweet because watermelon is a food, let me give you an illustration of how this works. In southern Idaho, where they grow lots of potatoes, when they first went in and grew potatoes, did you know the potatoes were huge? Absolutely huge. They were bigger than cantaloupes. Because the potato is a tuber and it concentrates heavy hydrogen. The source of heavy hydrogen on the planet is volcanic rock, magma. All those soils are volcanic. Pretty soon they were depleting the heavy hydrogen and they were getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Well, what did they do? Well, they assumed if we put potassium nitrate fertilizer on the soil, they'll come back to their original. They never did come back to their original size. My partner and I proved you could go out there and spray the soil with water that had the frequency of heavy hydrogen in it, and the potatoes would come back. Watermelon is a concentrator of heavy hydrogen. Sugar is lousy with heavy hydrogen, deuterium. That's why it's sweet. Deuterium is an energy source. And sugar concentrates heavy hydrogen, deuterium. That's why it's sweet.
I guess you could fertilize it with volcanic rock or
That's another solution. Grind it up, spray it on the fields. Yep.
They're doing that in France.
And there are experiments in Europe. I am aware of some done in Scandinavia, where they ground rock and sprayed it out, and the trees, everything went nuts.
It's happening here too. So,
Yes.
but it's happening here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've seen it.
Were you saying that the size of the molecule in watermelon is different than it is in rest of the fruit?
Yeah. Yeah. I believe all the particles are nanometer in size.
That's what I understand, is that you ever noticed on a hot summer day, you could drink water, you drink Coke, whatever, and you still don't quench your thirst, but you eat a couple of big pieces of watermelon, you're not thirsty anymore. That's because the fruit itself filters out everything but the very smallest water particles, and you hydrate better on watermelon than you would on water from your tap.
I was in a hospital for 6 days, and all I wanted when I got out was watermelon, 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 watermelon.
There you go. Your instincts know it, even though you
Instincts.
didn't.
Yes.
I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
I was gonna ask if you could touch on the importance of drinking water first thing in the morning, and also, or do you not drink it with food?
Yeah, it's important to hydrate the brain. Okay, the brain is about 90 to 93% water, and if you don't replenish the water, it has to replace the fluid every day. It gets quite dirty. They've been doing studies with sleep deprivation, and they now know why we need sleep. Because during the day when you're thinking, the level of toxins in your bloods go through the ceiling. You need to go to bed to get the toxicity out of the blood, because mental activity produces so many toxins. Did you know that? What's that? The same as muscle fatigue, lactic acid, yeah. Okay, so you go to bed, allow these toxins to be flushed out. And it's interesting. I know a man with the world's best memory. I've seen him memorize a list of 1,000 words in less than a minute, less than 60 seconds. He's phenomenal. And he does it by snapping a picture with his eyes. And you can yell out, oh, what's word number 723? And he'll tell you what it is. And then he'll start listing them from the front, going forward, and then he'll start from the back of the list and go back. He says, what way do you want it? He says, I have a picture of all those words in my mind. But he said, one of the keys is to hydrate the brain. And he's very much into water and hydration.
I think it's inherited too, isn't it?
No, it's a learned, anybody can learn to do it. Anybody. It's a learned technique. So, so it turns out that when you drink water to hydrate the brain, you're best off doing it on an empty stomach, because it mixes with your hydrochloric acid and forms a weak acid solution called hydronium. The brain wants to hydrate on hydronium because it's like a car battery. It wants a weak acid solution because it's very electrical in nature. So the best time to drink water is when? First thing in the morning on an empty stomach at room temperature. Because you've got a valve at the bottom of your stomach, the duodenal valve. It's there, among other things, to protect the core temperature of the body. And your water will sit in your stomach until it reaches an appropriate temperature before it opens up, and it'll allow it to. And yeah, duodenal valve.
Then at night too, correct?
Yeah.
I have a question about radon.
Yes.
The gas of radon. I was exposed to that as a little baby. I just found out about it, but the house that I was born in was over 4 point, and they have to fix it with the radon stacks. But I've developed a really high allergy to radon, and I have been on homeopathic drops where he pulls it out of the cells, and I don't know how many bottles I have gone through, and I just have to take this 3 times a day, or my body inside just kind of like vibrates a little bit. And I notice if I'm under a lot of stress, that is worse, and then I have to take it more than 3 times a day. And I wanted to know if the water would be good for that. I mean, it's an allergy.
Well, no doubt the water would be good.
But
How good, I can't say. Everybody's situation is different. All I can tell you is you can't go wrong drinking this water. It's just water in the long run. It is water. We still have water here, and it can't hurt you. It's totally benign.
But would there be something that you have here that would help to, so I can, get
Well,
it-
if you're having difficulty getting something out of the cells, it's because they're not hydrated.
Oh,
And there's the first place to start, is by hydrating it, and then see what will come out of the cells. That's the best way to answer this thing.
On the website, I know nothing really about this water until yesterday. It said something about alkalinity and acid.
Yeah.
And can you say more about that? And how to think about that, frame it? I
Well,
don't know anything about that.
Everybody we know who's ill was their pH was in an acid state. Especially cancer and really serious illnesses, these people get quite acid.
I mean, like the urine, the blood,
Well, your urine,
the saliva.
your urine pretty much has to be acid because all the byproducts of metabolism are acid. If they're not coming out of your body, then your urine won't be very acid, and that's not a good sign. You want acid urine. It's an indication you're cleaning. If you're not cleaning, you won't have an acid enough urine balance. So your saliva has to have this alkaline pH. Yeah, that'll work pretty good. You can't test the water with strips. There's two kinds of pH, and one is structural pH, and that's caused by hydroxy ions in the water, and the other is caused by chemical alkalinity. And that's what the strips measure. You need a meter to measure structured pH.
I'm a chemist in St. Louis. Is the only city that has 8.5 pH.
Really?
Coming out of the tap, 8.9 yesterday.
Really?
8.5 out of the tap. So you put reverse osmosis and you come up 8.4.
This is a chemist here. Here's the definitive answer. I'm not a chemist. She is.
Okay. That's alkaline.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the best.
And a pH of about 8.5 is ideal for humans.
I did an experiment on myself, and I was getting really good alkaline readings, and I thought that was just a gimmick, and I tested somebody I knew was pretty sick, and it was acid.
Acid, yeah.
Definitely.
Very acid.
So I saw it.
Yes, back there.
I'm wondering, you talk about drinking 4 ounces of water to build up. Now, are you supposed to stay to 4 ounces at a time, or what about that?
Well, as a rule, I was finding most people are all right drinking 4 ounces twice a day for at least 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. Then they would bump up to 6 ounces twice a day for another 2 or 3 weeks. Finally, they would go to 8 ounces twice a day for another 2 to 3 weeks. And finally, they would get up to 3 8-ounce glasses a day, which I think is sufficient for anybody.
So you do go on up to 8 ounces. You don't have to stay at 4 ounces.
Right,
at
but
a time.
there are some people that can't even tolerate 2 ounces twice a day. They start at
yeah.
1 ounce twice.
That's not what she's talking about. I gave a protocol that I talked about
Oh,
on the
yeah.
conference call,
Uh-huh.
which is, we
Oh,
want
yeah.
to avoid the cleansing crises. So we give that slow ramp up.
Slow ramp up.
Well, I was talking about the absorption. I think I heard that you can only absorb 4 ounces at a time.
Oh, yeah. But if you're going to drink 24 ounces of water a day, divide it into 6 little 4-ounce portions. But I'm finding that first thing in the morning, I drink 12 ounces of the water at least, and sometimes 16. Because I also go to lectures. I don't just talk, I listen. I learn by listening. There's a medical doctor and his wife, they're both doctors, they're a team. They gave a lecture on water, and their finding was that all these nasty colon diseases like Crohn's, colitis, diverticulitis, irritable bowel syndrome, at the root cause is dehydration of the bowel. They were saying first thing in the morning on an empty stomach at room temperature, drink 16 ounces of water. Absolutely valuable information. If you drink 12 to 16 ounces of my water, you'll hydrate the bowel, you'll hydrate the brain, perfect. And I've had a lot of people with serious colon problems and had those problems clear up just drinking water first thing in the morning. Now, understand that none of this happens overnight. It takes time. I know people that will hydrate in 6 weeks, and I've had other people who never hydrated for 3 months. There's a difference in people. So there aren't any fast, quick, dried rules here. I mean, it's different for everybody. We're giving you what we feel is a pretty rational and reasonable ramp-up schedule for more people, or most people, and it could be different for some people. That's all we're saying. You just have to be in touch with yourself. And if you go into a detox, and it can be denoted by diarrhea or the opposite, constipation, either one's detox, breaking out in rashes, all the symptoms of a cold or flu, a lot of mucus discharge, you're detoxing. But don't stop it. Keep it going. Get the garbage out. If you can stand it, keep going with the detox. If you can't, back off on my water and increase your intake of other water to flush your system. We need to keep toxins coming out. And I really highly recommend, as you begin to drink the water, do a colon cleanse or do a colonic. But whatever you do, keep your bowels moving. That's a primary exit point. People will start to cough. The lungs are used as an exit point for toxins. They'll get rashes on their skin. We had a partner that actually built and ran our bottling plant in Utah, Panguitch, Utah. And he was dying of heavy metal poisoning. He had a partner, and they were doing metallurgy together. And his partner died of mercury poisoning, and he was on his way to dying. And he said that my skin was as white as this board. All my teeth were loose, ready to fall out. And he said I was in so much pain some days I couldn't move. And he went to the doctor, and the doctor took a blood sample. He said, "What are you doing that for?" He said, "Well, we'll check and see if you have mercury poisoning." So the doctor got back to him and said, "You don't have mercury poisoning." He said, "What do you mean?" "Well, we can't find it in your blood." And he says, "Of course not. It's in the tissues." "Well, if we don't find it in the blood, you don't have mercury poisoning." Oh, for crying out loud. The guy was dying. He got on this water and it saved his life. But I saw this. One day I was down there. It was the first time I'd been down in that neck of the woods to meet all these people. And I'm working with them. And on his left side, just inside of the shoulder blade, between the shoulder blade and the spine, he had a spot that big around that was multicolored and oozing pus and blood. And they wanted me to look at it. They said, "What is that?" It's where all the metals were being pushed out of his body. His body had created an orifice and was pushing the metals out. When it got done, that thing healed up and you can't tell where it was. The same thing to me. My back split open. And at night, this yellow fluid would come out and just soak this t-shirt I was wearing. It was full of lead. There is an element in the water, and you can't, until very recently, they could not find this element in the crust of the earth. Element 61, promethium. That and element 43, technetium, had never been found in the crust of the earth. And in fact, they'd never been found in the solar system. It turns out that promethium operates off of 7 frequencies, and they're all in the water. Promethium is crucial. Promethium, now this is going to get a little technical. Promethium is a scalar wave or a standing wave in vacuum space. In fact, all of the universe, all of the vacuum space of the universe is permeated by the scalar or standing wave of promethium, all 7 frequencies. So here is an American woman, and she's completely depleted in minerals. They're not in her diet, but she gets pregnant. She gives birth to a baby, and the baby has all the minerals. Now, how did that happen? How did she give something to her baby that she herself does not have? This was a mystery. So we found that other creatures, we studied cows, horses, sheep, goats, ducks, everything. None of them had the right minerals in their system. but their young come into the world with all the minerals. Do you know how they do it? In the 6th month of pregnancy, there's a genetic program that turns on for 21 days. The baby pulls energy from vacuum space into himself and creates the minerals. They come out of vacuum space, and it's promethium and the 7 frequencies of promethium that do it. And he also pulls heavy hydrogen into himself, the energy of life. There's a Russian physicist that's been studying this for years and is convinced, and we agree with him, the human body does not use oxygen as an energy source. You and I use hydrogen. Oxygen is the transport mechanism, and it's got to be there as the catalyst. Your energy is coming from hydrogen, not oxygen.
What about the hyperbolic chambers?
Pressure, yeah.
Is that putting oxygen, letting oxygen go into the cell?
Yeah, but the oxygen is actually carrying more hydrogen. Increased oxygen, more hydrogen. We think there's a lot of things out there that are just not understood correctly. For instance, we find that in the natural world, heavy metal ore deposits are being made all the time. Nuggets are being formed from water. Crude oil is made from energy and water. It's being made all the time. If you grew up in the 60s and 70s and 80s, you heard this mantra about non-renewable resources. Baloney, there is no such thing as a non-renewable resource. Everything is made from energy and water. The planet's designed to renew everything continually. It's all made from energy and water.
But at what rate?
We can use it up faster and it can be replenished. And we can do that like with crude oil, natural gas. It's always being made. Water, I can't tell you how amazing water is.
But if you can manipulate the water to produce it quicker,
That's what I'm doing now. This is a manipulation. This whole thing is a manipulation.
right, but not.
I'm literally taking water and I'm engineering it for a given purpose. Yeah. Yes.
The question of the chemist, the pH of your drinking water, is that from chemically structured or is that from natural structure? Do you know? Do they put
It's just I take a pH meter and
Yeah,
you
meter.
measure the pH of the tap water.
after it's been through chemicals?
No, you get tap water here. You just I tell you the pH is 8.5, 8.9.
Yeah, but
St. Louis water.
is it from the chemicals added or is that straight from a well?
No, that's St. Louis water is Missouri, Mississippi water
Really,
that's
right?
been treated over and over.
Yeah,
And
okay.
it's not-
So it's still
it's
chemically structured then?
Tap water.
Well,
Provided by the city, coming from the Missouri and the Mississippi. It's
Yeah.
full of chemicals. You don't want to drink it. It's got
Yeah,
loads
yeah.
of chemicals
But-
without treating the water.
I was just
But
gonna ask.
it's pH 8.5, 8.9.
Yeah, but there's two types of pHs, a synthetic
Right,
and
right.
there's a real.
The pH he was talking about is from the saliva, and it's a different pH than the pH you measure from the water.
okay, we're going to ionize water.
Okay,
What happens is this. We strip a hydrogen, but the electron stays back with this hydrogen and oxygen, forming a hydroxyl ion, hydroxy, with a net negative charge, and the hydrogen goes off as its nucleus, or proton, with a net positive charge. So it's off here by itself. So when you ionize water, you're saving these. They're alkaline, and you're getting rid of these. They go out another spout. That's done electrically. That's structured pH. Nature does that also. Water will always come with a certain number of hydroxyl ions in it.
What's the benefit of ionized water?
It's alkaline.
Oh,
It'll alkalinize you.
okay.
In other words,
You can
it's got an extra electron.
Right, you
in
can
a
take
f-
acid water and make it alkaline.
Yeah.
If you have acid water, but if
Yeah.
alkaline water or alkaline, do you want it?
Yeah.
That's the point.
So if you have free radicals in your body, they're looking for an electron. Okay? Free radicals are going to steal an electron, which is oxidation. They will oxidize your tissue. So, an antioxidant has an extra electron, including this guy. He'll loan it and disarm the free radical. Okay? So we're just playing with, we're just handing electrons back and forth here is what we're doing. Yeah.
Throwing baking soda in water or something.
Well, that's very alkaline, yeah. You pour it on your battery terminals to clean them up. Fizz, fizz, oh, what a relief it is. Okay.
Typical swimming pool meter for pH.
That's structured pH.
That's structured pH.
Yeah,
Correct.
the meter.
And what we do when we do our tongue is
Chemical pH.
Correct.
Those are alkalinizing chemicals or compounds. Yes.
That's right.
Alkalinizing chemicals or compounds. Yep.
If you use a fish tank tester, it's different.
That's structured pH.
Yeah, structured pH.
Now I have my question. That was to clarify her question. Can I ask mine?
Yes.
Okay, you mentioned that one of the big, you said emotional struggle, because of your life experiences that don't get sorted out and all that causes dehydration. And what was the mechanism by which makes your situation worse?
Well,
what was the context in which you mentioned?
Because all of the muscles in the body are wired into circuits that distribute energy. When there are blockages that impede the flow of energy, a muscle has a simple response. Because it has 3 contractile modes and one of them is passive, if I now affect the amount of energy going to that muscle, either it gets too little or too much. Either way, it has a simple response. It goes into spasm, it begins to tighten. In other words, the passive contractile mode literally becomes a matter of tightening up the tissue. When you begin to tighten tissue, you restrict the flow of circulation, the flow of lymph fluid, the movement of things through the interstitial fluid around the cells. You impede all of that. The tissue gets tighter and tighter. Most back problems I've ever run into, they all start with some type of muscle spasm or muscle tension. And you have to block energy to the muscles somehow for that to happen. If there was no impedance of flow of energy to the muscles, you would never have a muscle spasm.
So what is the role? I'm a nurse that has become alternative. I don't work in
Oh, great.
anymore. But what I have noticed is that people can get a chance to be listened to enough and with a correct perspective on reality, like people are inherently good, enormously intelligent, enormous capacities we have and all that. If they can get a piece of that, they will start to process chapters of their life that didn't get, and a lot of tears and emotional work can happen. And it's not the same kind where you're saying, well, I'm stupid, crying. I'm talking about getting a hold of a piece of reality and crying because you're doing lots of grief work and all that. And that seems to have a big impact on their body.
Yes, it does.
And there's a lot of, they say that the biochemistry in your tears is different than the biochemistry from when your eye gets irritated with an onion or something.
The most toxic poisons they've ever found in the human body are in your tears.
It's a lot of stress.
Particularly the tears of grief.
Yes.
You know what my work is confirming?
What?
You literally create these poisons in your body from energy fields. Yes. In fact, you create viruses in your body from energy fields. A Russian named Kuznachev did some experiments. He took and made 2 cylinders like this, and they had a window in the cylinder, and inside the window was a stage, and they put some sample on the stage. Now he found out that they had to make the windows out of quartz. Not glass, but quartz. For the same reason that my friend made the lenses of his microscope out of quartz. He took 2 cylinders, and in this one he had, on the stage inside, he had some healthy tissue, and in here he had diseased tissue. Now, as long as they were not looking at one another, the healthy tissue remained healthy, and the diseased tissue remained diseased. But if he turned the cylinders so the windows looked at each other, the healthy tissue picked up the same pathology as the diseased tissue. It's transmitted through energy. We're not exchanging germs and viruses out here. We're exchanging energy, and that's what's causing this stuff. This all baloney. Even before Louis Pasteur died, he knew that that was baloney, that we were not transmitting all these organisms to one another. We're transmitting energy, the frequency of them.
Wouldn't it be just as possible for if the energy was stronger for some reason in health healthy tissue, that the diseased tissue could have gotten well? I mean, what determined which?
Possible, but when you deal with the probability of it, the probability is against it. It's not likely. The healthy tissue will always pick up the energy of the disease because of the frequency. It's easier to get the frequency of this stuff over to here than it is vice versa.
So you can't reverse it with a super powerful.
Well, no, we can. The men like Rife and Priori in France developed machines that were electromagnetic in nature and would reverse disease process.
Oh, I see. It'd be like neutralizing it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I see. A person's presence can't do that. It'd be a
Well,
machine.
a powerful healer can.
Oh, that's what I was.
Yeah, I can affect people by just working with them, and they'll absolutely drain me like a battery. At the end of the day, I feel like a wet rag. But the next day I wake up, I'm recharged, ready again. But people drain me as I work on them because they're actually drawing from my energy and benefiting from it too. Yeah.
How can you tell whether you're retracing? Are you always retracing? Or
Define retracing.
Gordon, do you have an answer for that? How do you know if you're retracing?
I mean, how do you know if it's a healing experience or a voice
Retrace. Oh, I'm sorry. Retracing is unlike a cleanse in that it can be just a memory.
But
It doesn't have to be
it could be, you know how
anything
you were
physical
saying,
coming out.
you might get a really sore leg.
Yeah,
Because
you
you
might.
have,
As a matter of fact, I
how
have.
do you know if it's a new thing or an old thing?
Well, did you hurt yourself? If you didn't hurt yourself, then it's a memory. Because I broke my leg playing football when I was 12.
You don't know.
I did not pay attention to the Rambo schedule he gave us. I just, by the third day, I was drinking 24 hours. And all of a sudden, it felt like somebody kicked me in my right leg. And I looked around to see who was there first. Then I almost dropped the water. I hobbled across the kitchen. And then I asked the question, what could I have done to my leg? I got a very clear mental picture of one day when I was 12 years old. A much bigger boy broke my leg just by falling on it while we played football. And it felt exactly the same. That's retracing.
How can you tell emotional retracing?
Well, you know, when Ida Rolf developed what we call Rolfing, a lot of people, even grown men, break out in ball-like babies when they're being Rolfed because this energy is also stored in all these tissues, especially the tight tissue, the muscle structure, and you're actually releasing emotional energy as they're being massaged.
With that,
They'll just break down and cry like babies.
with that in mind, you're saying there are different toxins, and so it's good to cry then if you need to cry.
It's good to, oh yes, the worst thing you can do is suppress that. Absolutely the worst. Real men eat quiche and they cry.
Scientific proof.
You gotta cry, yes. Yeah. It's important. Oh, you don't ever want to hold stuff like that back. You're injuring yourself. Yeah. That's a good question, Becky. Really good. Good point.
What about if you start repeating the crying as a habit?
It's because you need to.
Hopefully you're not addicted to it.
And maybe
You can get an attitude that gets stuck that's not really based on reality, but it's repeating the...
that's possible. But now we're getting into really
Recycling and
exceptional situations, psychological stuff. But you're right. It can happen, but as a rule, doesn't.
You know, it's like, the world's awful, the world's awful, the world's awful. You know, you can just keep repeating it and keep crying about it.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Well, I was talking to somebody today who'd been through circumstances similar to mine, having trouble. That was yesterday. I was talking to this person. That person is having a problem going beyond it. They need to learn to just drop it and go on with their life. No, it was this morning. It was this morning. And this person wasn't the one having the problem. It was her father. So, anyway, some people don't have the tools, or not given the tools, and don't have the wherewithal or the knowledge of how to leave something behind. Sometimes you can't leave it behind because it's such a powerful energy. If somebody could help you dissipate the energy, you could go on.
That would be a healer
Or water. I've had this water do things that a psychologist could not do. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like a psychologist in the bottle. The weirdest, most bizarre and vivid dreams I've ever had in my life came after I started drinking the water, and I knew it was the water doing it.
Tell about people who put 2 bottles of water down with their animals. One of your nano water and one of the regular water.
Oh, you tell.
You're better at it than I am.
Well, I'm not quite sure what you mean.
When you talk about if you put 2 different bowls down, one say with reverse osmosis and one with your water, they may start drinking out of both, but they end up just drinking your water.
Oh yeah, animals prefer this, thumbs down. Now they're not affected by magnesium 27 because we put some energy in the water that mitigates that. Yeah, they're
Osmosis distilled water.
reverse osmosis is filtered water. It goes through a membrane. It's quite small.
What is dialysis?
Well, dialysis. She knows what dialysis is. This lady is a nurse, right? Well, their kidneys quit functioning.
You're just filtering out the blood.
Filtering the blood because the kidneys lose the ability. Yeah,
You
right?
can probably explain this well.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there are people on dialysis that can get off of dialysis with this water. And I'll tell you why. This was on Paul Harvey years ago. I've told this story over and over again because it impresses me. It's about a Navy officer who one of his kidneys just quit, it failed, and they had to remove the kidney. So he had a buddy who was a Navy officer and a surgeon. So I can't remember in the story if the surgeon asked him if he could remove the kidney or the guy asked the surgeon to do it, either way. But the surgeon said, I have an idea that may save your kidney. So they built a bench in the operating room, and they put a pan of saline solution, and they had a set of dental tools and a magnifying glass. You see these magnifying glasses on a boom arm like a reading light, and then there's a circular fluorescent bulb around the periphery or on the underside so it really lights up what you're looking at real well. He took the guy's kidney out and took it over there and took the dental tools and started picking the plaque out. Kidneys lime up like water pipes. They get calcium lime built up in them. He kept picking until he felt that he had it clean enough, and he was washing it in the saline solution, picking the plaque. He put it back in the guy, and it worked like a new kidney. And we can do that with water.
About dialysis is
Yeah,
related to that.
that's what happens.
Dialyze things. I thought that might be what you're doing with the water.
The water can go in and clean that plaque out of the kidneys, because that's what happens when people get gout. The kidneys can't pass uric acid out of the bloodstream, get rid of it through the urinary tract. So you end up with this excess of uric acid, and finally it begins to crystallize in your toes. It's very painful. I had a friend with severe gout. I got him on the water, and 2 months later gout was gone because it was cleaning the kidneys.
Where does uric acid come from?
Meat, eating meat,
Coffee,
certain foods.
Does
Yeah.
it come from coffee at all?
They say
I don't think so.
asparagus too.
Asparagus.
Asparagus?
And
Asparagus is supposed to get
meat is a good source. I know that. Meat and dairy.
And dairy.
Yeah, I'm really down on most dairy. After what I've learned over the years, dairy is no good. We're the only species on the planet that uses the milk of a different species. That's dumb. Every species optimizes its milk for its young, not for anybody else.
What about goat?
Goat milk's a lot better. I've had people drink raw goat's milk and turn their health problems around.
Yeah, but still, it's
Much.
from an animal.
Oh, it's much closer to human milk, though.
Yeah, the raw goat cheese you can get at the
Raw
Mexican
goat,
market.
it tastes good. Raw goat cheese and goat's milk yogurt. Usually, it doesn't taste really super, but it's good for you. Yeah,
I guess you can get used to it. And start
yeah,
liking
yeah.
it more and more.
What about the Krebs cycle? Do you know that phrase, Krebs cycle of the cells, the energy production?
Yeah.
Okay, can you talk?
Getting more ATP, adenosine triphosphate, produced to be used, burned as energy in the mitochondria. Okay, it's a very complex nutrient chain. She probably knows more about that than I do, the Krebs cycle.
About the Krebs cycle?
You know what dicarbonyls, that's what you know.
Yeah.
What about polycosanols and fat soluble and having enough good fat in your diet? You know how Mainstream keeps talking about less fat, less fat.
Yep, I am asked that question all the time. And you must have good fats and oils in your diet. The water will not supplant those.
So do you have a bibliography of books that you really think are good? Or something you recommend to people?
Well, I do have some books that I think give people a good basis. Yeah, Donna Eden has a book on energy medicine. Richard Gerber has a good book. And Dr. Gerber. And Gerber's book, Vibrational Medicine. There's a landmark book everybody should read if they're interested in this. Dr. Robert O. Becker wrote the book, The Body Electric. That's a landmark book, and that's a must-read. The Body Electric. Dr. Robert O. Becker. He's a B-E-C-K-E-R. He's a biophysicist. A very bright man. Doc Childre, C-H-I-L-D-R-E, The Heart Math Solution, a must-read.
The heart math?
Math, M-A-T-H, Heart Math. Must-read. Now, there's a book written by Dr. Bill Tiller at Stanford University. I'm trying to think of it. Something or other in human transformation. I forget the exact title. Tiller, T-I-L-L-E-R. Brilliant man, used by your government as a consultant in strange fields like computer modeling, crystallography, thin film deposition, all kinds of weird stuff like that. Yeah, something, human health and transformation or something like that. You can find it if you look. Tiller is a prolific contributor to holistic publications. And he was the head of the Department of Material Sciences and Engineering at Stanford. And one of the most in-demand engineers in the world. Hard to get a hold of. I've talked to him on the phone. I've talked to a lot of strange guys, like Dr. San Wong in Purine, Florida. It's a suburb of Miami. He wrote a book all about alkalinizing the body. And I'm trying to think of the... No, alkalinizing your body. I'm trying to think of the title of the book. It's a really good little read. And he's a brilliant engineer. He's Korean American. San, S-A-N-G, and the Korean version of Wong is W-H-A-N-G, pronounced Wong.
How do they alkaline?
He's a co-developer of the modem. He did all the technology behind variable contact lenses. Very brilliant engineer. He knows all about the importance of alkalinity in the body. Look up San Wong and you'll find his book.
Coral calcium or something like that?
No, I'm not impressed by coral calcium. The most complex part of the mineral equation is calcium. Calcium operates, your body has a need for two isotopes. Calcium isotope 45 and 46. Now, interestingly, there's sub-frequencies of these isotopes. The body will use one frequency from 45 and 6 frequencies from isotope 46.
So how does that relate to the other coral calcium?
Well, okay, we studied coral calcium, and coral calcium contains one correct frequency of calcium. It's in isotope 46. It has one of the correct frequencies. And the water has all 7.
Oh, I see. But that combined with water?
Well, yeah, it's soluble in water, but it's still a solid form of calcium. And the body doesn't really like any solid form of any mineral. It's not the ideal state. The ideal state is energy, pure energy in water. Years ago, they did an experiment where they took a big pot of soil. Okay, big pot of soil. And in a controlled environment where they controlled the temperature, they took the soil and they measured the moisture content and recorded this very carefully. And they weighed it to the last gram as accurately as they could. They brought in a bare root seedling. It was an oak tree. They planted it and let it grow for 15 years. At the end of 15 years, this tree was huge. The experiment had to be terminated because it was so root bound it was going to break the pot. They uprooted it one day after they got the same moisture conditions in the soil. They very carefully cleaned all the soil off the roots. They could account for every last gram of soil. And they were astounded. What is this huge tree that's quite heavy made out of? It should have taken all these minerals out of the soil. There should have been far less soil. No. Plants don't take minerals out of the soil. They take the energy of the minerals in water. They're doing the same thing we are, people. A plant is made out of energy and water, and some of that energy comes from the soil and some comes from sunlight. It's nothing but a manifestation of energy and water.
So that's where organic comes from, the more fertile, meaning more minerals in the soil.
No, you're just getting away from the presence of toxins in organic. That doesn't mean organic foods are necessarily growing on soil that's any better than any other soil. Oh no, don't be suckered down that road. It doesn't work that way.
They tested wheat crops over generations and found the mineral content in the soil was a lot more depleted.
Oh,
and then they
definitely
did 30 years after that, they did tests and they found out it was even more depleted now then.
Yeah.
Than
That's what
before.
happens.
So therefore the
growing the same crop in the same soil,
depletes the
there's
minerals,
nothing in that
therefore-
soil that's of any benefit to you and I. The plant doesn't use the same isotopes we do. It'll grow fine on that soil. There's nothing there for you and I.
But I mean,
Go into
wheat took the minerals out of the soil. In essence.
took the energy of the minerals.
Yeah.
You can deplete the energy. You can deplete the energy. If we go out and find an outcropping of rock coming out of the earth, and it has an unstable isotope in it, it'll vibrate with that energy. If we leave it alone, it'll stay there for centuries and still have the energy. But if we break off a chunk and take it, in so many months it's depleted of energy. It just dissipates. There's no more energy in it.
So it's basically like burning out.
Like burning out, yeah. Okay.
What, is that like when you grow something with hydroponics? What if you used your water?
Oh, it'd probably grow a lot better.
In essence, you'd still have to replace the mineral content then through, manure or whatever.
I mean, we don't need the soil. I was
So
always
it's
fearful of
similar to
stuff
the
that was
same.
grown without.
Well, they've done all these studies with agricultural societies versus hunter-gatherer. And they could tell the hunter-gatherers were always much healthier. They were drawing food from a lot of different places. But the Native Americans, we call them Indians, though that was a mistake. Somebody thought they discovered India, but Native Americans. They were using a collector of minerals called the bison or buffalo. The bison roamed over a huge area and ate grass growing on different soils all over. And then he had a good intestinal environment in terms of bacteria. And actually, we know from the work of a man named Louis Kerr-Ron that bacteria will actually transmute elements in soil. Our agricultural practices are killing the bacteria in the soil. That's what builds soil, is bacteria. And you put these fertilizers on to kill the bacteria. They sterilize the soil.
So the cow dung.
Bacteria build soil, and bacteria.
Is that water good or?
What water?
Deer poop and all that. It's
Water
good.
gardening, where you just grow things in water.
Yeah.
Well,
They're putting some energy into water, and they're growing tomatoes as an example. And I eat the tomatoes, and they taste like cardboard to me. And I check them, and they have no nutrient value. If they used my water, we've done experiments. We took an egg and boiled it in our water, and the egg came out totally mineralized.
okay.
Yes.
Do you know any way more by any chance of wheatgrass juice?
What about wheatgrass juice?
She's the promoter, founder.
Okay.
Wheatgrass juice. I know some people who are growing, wheatgrass and some tissue and water instead of soil.
Yes.
I wonder about it.
I've heard about that. Somebody yesterday was telling me they were doing it.
Instead of soil. Is soil
Instead of
better?
soil.
Is it?
Not necessarily. If it doesn't have the right isotopes for you and I, it's not better. You might as well grow the crop in a stack of cardboard boxes.
But if you
If
use
it'll
the
work.
water, then it will absorb
Yeah.
the energy so that
You
it will
you use the water, it'll absorb the energy. Then that plant will come to you full of minerals. Gardening with this water would be the best thing you could ever do.
In soil, of course.
In soil, yeah.
It has been done, hasn't it, Dan, like with the sweet potatoes?
Yeah. In fact, we were growing different plants on selected soils down there in the desert in the southwest. And the interesting thing was, then we found out that every plant, its DNA tells it to collect one isotope that the mammal kingdom needs, the correct isotope. Only one mineral. So the banana becomes a collector of what mineral? Potassium. And it's the right potassium. Blueberries collect what mineral? Chromium. Very good for diabetics. Same thing with cinnamon. It's a spice. Full of chromium. Why? It helps control insulin. Okay, see how this works? Now, we would go into grocery stores with, I will admit this to some of you, it might be questionable, go in with a dowsing rod. I am a dowsing rod. I can feel the energy field. And none of those foods contain any nutritional value. It's a whole room of dead foods. And even in the produce section, it's not that impressive. So if you're trying to get all the minerals you need out of the food, have a good time, because you're not going to find it. And even in the organic. And we would take a particular herb and find that the herb had a mineral in it that was beneficial. The same herb by a different company would have no benefit. Why? The plants are grown on different soils that depend on what was in the soil.
if the mineral's not there in the soil. you
The
can't
reason we
get it.
developed this as a mineral supplement is because we wanted a surefire way of delivering all of the minerals you need in the correct form, in the ideal state, time after time, without you having to worry about whether you were getting it in your diet. That's why the water was developed. It started with my partner having a heart attack because he had coronary arteries full of aluminum phosphate plaque. And the first energy that ever went into water was the energy of indium, isotope 125. He drank that for 4 to 5 weeks, and all the plaque came out of his arteries, and he's been fine ever since.
What about chelation? Will that do it? I mean, there's people who are doing.
This water chelates
Yeah, that is a chelate, but I mean, what
Chelate.
about people just go to the doctor
and get EDTA, intravenous. Yeah, it works.
So
Yeah,
this water chelates minerals from your body and it takes it out, in other words.
yeah. The wrong isotopes. Plaque is made out of isotopes that just won't move.
Dan, and the gentleman up front was talking about growing crops. I think something he was trying to get to. When they're not doing crop rotation, they're growing the same crop year after year. But that's not what's actually depleting the soil. Is it because a tree grows in the same soil for decades? How is that?
Yeah, the tree grows in the same soil for decades, but it's always extending its root system into new territory.
Okay.
Yeah. So not all of that root system is functional. The funny thing is, he doesn't need much root system. If you looked at the root system of a redwood, you would be shocked. It has a very small root system for a huge, massive tree. All these plants are looking for is energy and water. And so are we. That's what we're looking for, energy and water. So I know people that are attaining a marvelous level of health and wellness, and they're really not even changing their diet significantly. They're just incorporating this water in. Now you talk about wheatgrass. The company here sells a product made by a brilliant engineer named Javari Oberyn. And he has all these really rich foods in one product. How many foods are in that product?
Currently, 190 different plants that represent a combination total of around 4,500 phytonutrients.
4,500 phytonutrients, 190 different plants. The secret is the man knows how to do it right so he does not destroy the energetic field around the plants. He can deliver that biomass to you with the live field around it. And that's where the energy is going to come from.
So how do we eat those if we're not getting energy from our food and it's just taking more energy to digest it?
That's
Do we
why
not
people
get
are
hungry?
dying
Do we not get
and
hungry?
ending up with all these horrible diseases and problems. They're dying so young.
So it's not
Still
activated.
hungry,
That-
but I
that's-
can't live on your water, can I?
That's why Dr. Joel Wallach made this videotape that was all over the country called Dead Doctors Don't Lie.
So it just activates the minerals that are in your food and
Yeah.
or supplements the water density.
Now he was talking about taking a lot of supplements and developing what he called expensive pee. Okay,
I've done that, you know.
better to have expensive pee than die soon, but in reality, you don't have to have expensive pee. You can do it with far less. You can get all these products in water, strictly as energy.
We still got hungry.
I've taken people off of hundreds of dollars worth of products. They were going broke buying products. And get them off those products, and they're doing better than ever. Now begin to realize the products were impeding their progress. They were just adding a lot of debris to the system that needed to be cleaned up.
So has to break it down and get it out.
Yeah, it's like pharmaceuticals. They always leave this toxic debris behind. And that's what does the damage.
I mean, you might have a lot of.
And cooked food, dead food.
Yes, there is.
As far as energy is concerned.
Absolutely,
A
yeah.
huge difference. So-
Especially when it comes to enzyme content.
Right.
You could have expensive pee, but you're also having expensive blood too, cell saturation as well, while you're having that expensive pee.
You know, the problems we end up with don't come overnight. They develop for years. Go ahead.
Let me give you two examples of expensive pee. I've had two patients this year, one who was paying $7,000 out of her pocket per month for thalidomide, which is an outlawed chemotherapy. And
Yep.
you get 28 pills that fit on the card. And they just buried this last week. Another one who was $3,000. They said they're going to give him a good deal because he's such a nice guy. They gave him 10% off for those $4 worth of pills of outlawed thalidomide, which causes babies to be born without arms.
That's a drug, correct?
That's a nasty drug that was outlawed that's brought back as experimental chemotherapy. They let him have it for only $3,067. They gave him a 10% discount. You talk about expensive pee, and they both cases that killed their cash cow. They're both in the grave now from their expensive pee. So don't ever let anybody whine to you about expensive pee because you're taking some supplements, for goodness
Right,
sakes.
that's what I'm trying to say. Supplements is expensive pee, and then you have expensive blood at the same time. I'm
Yeah.
concluding, if it's good, organic, natural supplements, you're just going to do better. Snowball effect.
I don't.
Greater saturation with this,
The
activating it all.
Man has never made a pharmaceutical that wasn't toxic. We all know the story
Oh,
about
yeah.
aspirin, how it comes from the bark of the white willow. Then a man named Bayer came along and figured out how to synthesize it out of petroleum. Then they went to bed with the petroleum industry, and now you're getting pure poison.
Yeah, that's right.
Footnote
That's
to
different,
that-
though.
footnote to that
like
Bayer
salmon oil or something like that.
Footnote to Bayer is how we had the plague of 1917 was because of Bayer aspirin.
The plague?
The
Like
plague
what?
of
Which
19
plague?
The plague where millions of people died because they were doing aspirin instead of letting the body clean out itself naturally.
Correct. I'm glad you brought that up.
I thought that was like the bird flu.
I want to. No. Okay, now I'm going to
Lasts
talk.
about
I'm
3
going
months.
to put two together. Talk about this. They say that 30 to 35,000 people die every
Spanish
year
flu. Spanish.
in this country die of the flu. Autopsies confirm 200 deaths a year. The others die of viral pneumonia. When you suppress a fever with aspirin or anything, I believe that above a temperature of 102 degrees, a virus can't replicate. Your body gives you a fever to stop the virus from replicating. They suppress the fever, and it goes into the lungs, and most of these people, over 30,000, die of viral pneumonia by suppressing the symptom, which is a fever.
That would have eventually worked its way out.
Don't suppress the fever unless it gets dangerously high.
So back then they were taking aspirin to counter
They had
symptoms?
invented aspirin for the war, and aspirin was a temporary painkiller. Then that somehow shifted over to be used, and you can dig it out of the internet. It's all over the place because this bird flu is another big fraud.
Another big fraud. Huh?
It's just is.
Well, dear, I think somebody wants to reduce the population of the world. And a plague is a good way to do it. I can't think of it because this plague you can blame on the birds. There's no culpability. There's no blame. There's no finger pointing.
How's it happening? I don't know.
Those damn birds.
Yeah,
Oh, there's no doubt. It's no coincidence that the first time AIDS pops up is along the Kinshasa Highway in northern Africa. That's the first place Ebola pops up. It's right next to little old Uganda, where Idi Amin was a horrible dictator for several years. He would cut people's limbs off and sew them on the opposite side. He was a sweet guy. And he also let the CIA in for a price to set up laboratories in the jungle. These are all manufactured. They're recombinant genetics at work.
I heard just for a second a little bit that I keep wanting to ask somebody to tell me if they know the name of the man, and I think his first name was Ray, and they said this man was a scientist that was like second Einstein, so he's well known, and that he just got funded $7 billion for putting these little things inside the, it's kind of like little computer things to go inside the blood. So,
It's nanotechnology.
what's his name?
I don't know.
What is it?
Nanorobots?
Yeah, but what's the man's name that gets all the awards, and he's the thinker that,
Gee, I don't know. Do you want those things in your bloodstream?
you want to take it, Ray? No, he said it, Ray?
Took him to board or something.
Do we need it, Ray?
Yeah.
Now we should take a break.
Yeah, let's take a break and
And especially for man, we want to do something for you people.
Before you get out,
Yeah.
pass out the
We
water.
want to give
We're gonna pass out
that.
the water now. Remember the experiment.
tell a joke. I'm depressed.
Let the tears out.
So the dying process is nothing but thermodynamics out of control. If you can talk to me about free radical pathology, you can talk to me about the degradation of the telomere caps on the end of the DNA strands, declining hormones levels, blah blah, on and on and on. Doesn't make any difference. Declining DHEA levels, these are all symptomatic of increased entropy, accelerated entropy, entropic decay. There was a physicist named Boltzmann, Ludwig Boltzmann, in the 1870s. He's the father of what we call statistical mechanics. Boltzmann came up with the formula for entropy. Entropy is always represented by S equals K log W. And one of these is Boltzmann's constant. I have my personal business. All of this water stuff is coming under the umbrella of my business, which is called Negative S LLC, Limited Liability Company. That's my legal entity. So I want to have a t-shirt made up with this formula and a happy face, and it says, have a nice day. Okay? In other words, you're dying very rapidly, but have a nice day on your t-shirt. See? And I thought that would be appropriate because nobody would understand what it was. A little irony there. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we were going to work on somebody. We'll start with you. We'll do an analysis. This is always just an analytical tool. Okay. Okay. You face these people. Yeah, and back up a little bit. Okay. Now, can I test this shoulder? Is there any pain there or anything? Okay. Put your little finger and thumb together if you could. There. Okay. Some people find that difficult. They're not used to doing it. Just lock this muscle. Just achieve muscle lock. Okay, I want to be very objective. I want to make sure I push straight down. Okay? Now, I'm going to push with all 4 fingers. You're really strong. Negative energy. The back of your hand is always negative energy. Tap between the eyebrows. Front of your hand. Okay. Now, that's correct polarity. If he is weak this way and strong this way, his polarity is reversed. I can't go any further. I have to reverse his polarity. And the way to do that is right here below the collarbone, just on the side of the sternum is what we call, that's a thymus point. We want to bang on that real hard. We want to bang on this side.
K27.
Yeah, right. And we can switch the, you do this, right? You do a lot of muscle testing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. So this guy is good at it, okay? Now, I've developed my own method over the years.
I've tickled to watch you.
It's partly Versendal's method, okay? So I've also cut some things out, and I've developed some shortcuts because I'm beginning to realize there are certain things we really need to deal with that are fundamentally very important, and we can skip a lot of other stuff if we tend to the more important matters. So what I'm going to do with this man is I want to make sure he doesn't have any skull plates misaligned. If you got skull plates misaligned, you got to stop and do that because they'll create false readings. I'm going to check his frontal, his parietal ridge, his sphenoid, his temporal, and his occipital bone. All I got to do is touch him. I want to make sure he doesn't have TMJ. Okay, so that's fine. Check his hormone balance, his pH, salt, sugar. Now I'm going to very carefully trace his brainstem because we can have an energy reversal. And there aren't any people in the world that are aware of this except my partner and I. Okay, now, out here, away from the back of the head, we don't want to touch it. We're going to check for a brain parasite. He doesn't have one. I'm going to come around here and check for Tay-Sachs-Pompey syndrome. Now I'm going to go underneath his right ear to check for chemical toxicity. Over here to check for a systemic infection. He doesn't have a systemic infection. Okay, now, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to check his chakras before I go any further. I'm going to go clockwise, clockwise, throat clockwise, heart clockwise. I'm going to go solar plexus clockwise. It's reversed. Stomach clockwise, reversed. Be strong. Root clockwise, reversed. So he's got 3 chakral centers going the wrong direction. It's unpolarized. So now, just out of curiosity, I'm going to say, well, I'd like to know what came out of this. So I'm going to check him here. Bingo, he's weak. Here, oh, we got problems both sides. Oh, I'm going to go check his lung point and check his heart. Oh, his heart's weak. Let's pulse his heart. Start at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Heart pulses to 8. That's not necessarily very good. I'm going to go on down here and I want to check his spleen, to check his pancreas. I want to come over here and check his liver. His liver's toxic, okay? I want to check his gallbladder. It seems to test all right. Okay. Gallbladder can be a tricky one. It can cause more illusions in the body than anything. Okay, and I'm going to go down here. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to check. Yeah, this kidney's weak. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. I'm going to go down here, prostate, bladder, transverse colon, descending, ascending. I'm going to go up to the small intestine, the stomach. Okay, we got a liver weak, got a kidney clogged, we got a weak heart. So now I want to go back and I want to do some checking. I want to go over here to the hemoglobin point, coronary. You got some coronary artery blockage. Okay. Now, energized water, do we have a bottle? One of these. Okay. You hold on to that. Okay. Be strong. Okay, I'm going to pulse your heart to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It should pulse to 12 and it does. Okay, I'm going to check the coronary point. Strong. Okay, this will take the plaque out of the arteries.
Really?
Yeah, it'll chelate you. It was designed to chelate you. That was my partner's
Yeah.
half of the project.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. It was supposed to from the get-go. Okay, so now I want to get those chakras going the correct direction. So is Miriam around here? Uh-oh. Well, I'll use my own card. I use a man size in my wallet. And I just took a junk card that has started to fade around the edges, and I use that. That's good enough for me. The color really doesn't make any difference. Okay, this card's got good energy. So put your arm. No,
arm
no,
out here.
no.
Oh, you don't?
Okay, I'm going to put the card. I'm going to start with the root chakra in the crotch, about the pubic bone area. I don't have to touch him. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 20, 30. 40, 50, 60, 70. Now, if I check him, I'll get you to hold that, please. Thank you. Yeah. Now, that chakra is going the correct direction, but this one's wrong, and this one's wrong. So, I'll go ahead. Where's your belly button? Just point to that. Okay, just a little below the belly button and off to the left is the stomach chakra. We're going to put it right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. You want to go 70 revolutions. Yeah, no. Now we go to his solar plexus. Well, I've done this myself, and I've had some other people sensitive to energy who can feel energy, and they say at about 50 revolutions you can feel the resistance back off, and the field will begin to spin around the other direction. So you do it another 20 to get the field spinning good, and that's pretty much permanent. It'll stay that way. In rare exceptions, it re-unpolarizes, but those are very rare. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Okay. Now, yes, sir.
If you do 100 revolutions, will those rare occasions not happen?
No, it really doesn't make much difference if you do a 70, 80, 90, or 100, or 150 or 200. Once it starts spinning the right direction, it'll start picking up its own momentum. Okay, so now we got this guy spinning the correct direction here, here, and here. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to check him out. That's what's wrong with his liver. An organ cannot function correctly in the presence of an energy field that is unpolarized. Okay, I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to check his pancreas. Kidneys up. That's the heart. Okay? Now I'm going to pulse your heart again. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now it pulses to 10. Okay, so you do have a little coronary blockage. Okay. Calcium. Aluminum phosphate. Yeah, aluminum phosphate plaque. And that's easy to deal. That's a piece of cake. That'll come out with the water. And my partner, it happened in about 4 to 5 weeks. Felt like a new human being, and the problems never come back. Yeah. So now I want to check some more things here.
Good.
Yeah. 8. Now, do you have anything you know of that I should be looking for?
Well, my wife just passed away 2 months ago, so I probably have some kind of emotional problem, maybe.
Oh, definitely stress. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna read his stress level. Let's imagine we develop a scale and the maximum amount of stress is 10. Okay, I'm going to ask his body, can we check his stress level on a scale of 1 to 10? Yes, we can. Be strong. Don't let me push it down. Okay, good. Okay, is his stress a 10? Is it a 9? It's a 9. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 9. It's a 9. Okay. Now, you can do it on yourself. You can put your fist this way or this way. I'm going to go ahead and rap on this guy's tailbone, and I'm going to send a shock up his central nervous system.
Sure need that.
Now this is kind of like tapping on the ends of meridians. I send a shock up the central nervous system. It blows energy out the peripheral nervous system. Now I'm going to ask where his stress level is on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, be strong.
Yeah.
Is it a 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? It's a 1 on a scale of, yeah. And you'll feel a difference.
Oh, my.
Now you can do it yourself. You can
Looks like a new man.
beat like this.
Yeah, like a new man. Probably.
Yeah, he does.
Probably
You can't
do.
do that and turn around.
I've been under terrible stress lately, so,
Oh, it's
yeah.
a terrible loss.
oh, 50 years. 50 years.
You can do it on yourself.
How many times?
I do it 50, 60 times. Yeah,
Yeah,
If you love her,
she
that's
was an
even
angel.
worse.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So now you even look better than when you first stood up
I
here.
feel better.
Do you?
Oh, much better.
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
do.
So now we got the shock. I just want to look for infections, okay?
Okay.
I want to make sure you don't. Okay, point to your belly button. Show me where it is. Just
It's
point
right
it.
here.
Right there. Okay, good. Take your finger. Okay, be strong. Don't push it down. Okay, he has no significant amount of intestinal flora and fauna. Let's get some bacteria in this man. It's important. That's 80% of your immune system. Okay, I'm going to go 4 inches up from the navel, 4 inches over, and that's a point for fungus. Doesn't have a fungus. Right below it is mold. Here's a parasite point. Right over is a point for spirochete. Doesn't have spirochete. I go over here 3 inches. Bingo. Now that's the load. That's the energetic load in the central nervous system. It's really low. So let's see where it is on a scale of 0 to 10. Be strong. Yeah. Is it a 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? It's really low.
Really low.
Now, we need to charge your central nervous system like a battery, and I'm developing something to do that.
Okay.
Now, when I do that, his body will then have sufficient energy to get the work done it needs to get done. So we can optimize conditions, put all the nutrients. That's no guarantee the body has the energy it needs to get the work done. I can't do work unless I have energy. Because the formula for work involves energy. You can't do work without energy. If the body doesn't have the energy, it can't do the work. So it occurred to me not long ago, I was working with people that get our biodiscs. They send them back to me and they're shot. There's no energy in them. They're draining the biodisc and it's a grounding problem. And a grounding problem is an electrical problem. So the central nervous system discharges like a battery. You can recharge it, and I'm developing some technology to do that. It'll be very simple to do. So, well, just life, stress. One stressful incident after another, and pretty soon, here's one late in this individual's life, losing his wife, tremendous stress. Absolutely one of the worst conceivable things you can have happen to you. So now he's struggling. There's just very little energy to work with here. We're going to see if we can't charge him up like a battery. Now, I don't have the technology ready yet. I'm working on it, but
I'll get with you when you get it.
yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. God bless you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Not having enough bacteria. Just drinking the water will then allow the bacteria to regrow, or you need to get it outside.
Now you're really probably going to have an outside source. Yeah. There's a probiotic on the market. And there's a bacteria in it that was discovered by the Germans in North Africa, first part of World War II. They went into North Africa, and of course the natives hated them, wouldn't cooperate. So the Germans were dying by the hundreds from dysentery. You know what causes dysentery? An amoebic parasite. Intestinal amoebic parasite. It's like getting salmonella. You basically dehydrate to death trying to get rid of it. They noticed, the natives. Well, here's how the story goes. They dress a German up like a native and send him out to spy. He's watching this guy follow a camel. The camel drops his dung. He picks up the dung, puts it in his mouth, and eats it. He says, what is this bizarre behavior? He starts noticing all the natives do it. They're eating camel dung. They knew that the camel never got dysentery. They didn't know why. There was something in his dung. It was a bacteria. It eats the amoeba. The camel's intestinal tract is rich with this bacteria. So they brought in a team of scientists. They studied the feces of the camel and isolated the bacteria. They stabilized it, cultured it, put it in capsules, and that ended their problem. So there's a company in Utah that makes a probiotic that's really rich in this. And if you have an amoebic infection in your blood or a protozoan, I'll put this probiotic in you. It'll sense the food source in the bloodstream, go in there, and scavenge it. And when it's done, it comes out of the bloodstream. There's no more food for it. It's very, very good bacteria, very friendly. So, yeah, it's good to take some of these really good. There's a lot of probiotics out there that are not good. They're just practically worthless.
Can you comment on natron?
On what?
Natron, trio.
I'm not familiar with it. I can't, no. But I want to test as many of these products as I can.
Is that on your list? The one you're referring to? The one?
No, this is called Nature's Biotics. It's made, it's made in St. George, Utah. Yeah.
What do you know about dog feces?
Dog feces? I avoid it. Just don't step in it.
I shovel mine up.
Okay.
I try to keep my hands.
Don't eat that. Don't eat
Oh,
that.
no, man, I wasn't going that far.
Okay.
I was cleaning it
Oh, yeah.
up. Smelling it.
Yes. Well, okay. We were testing the water. We've been testing the water for 4.5 years. We find out that the water pretty much works as good as colloidal silver. That's because there's a nutritional isotope of silver. It's 105, isotope 105. And in most cases, it works as good as colloidal silver. Plus, it's not toxic. The reason colloidal silver is so effective against almost 700 known pathogens is because it's also toxic to you if you use it long enough. It's in a metallic state. Anything in a metallic state is a toxin.
Is that brought down to smaller particles to the silver in yours?
No, it's in there as energy.
Okay. Right.
It's a pre-metallic unstable isotope of silver. It tends to work as good as colloidal silver. Okay. We're going to do one more demonstration, maybe a couple more. Okay, we'll have you face the crowd, face the music. Somebody sing. Okay. There, okay. Strong, good, and strong. Good test. Oh, good, excellent. This is one of these on and off people. I like that. Good response to this. Now sometimes, and probably in all cases, when you test the skull plates, have them take a big breath and hold it. And some of these plates will misalign on inspiration as well as expiration. Okay, some are only expiration only, some are inspiration only. Okay.
You want me to breathe?
Yep, please breathe. Please don't turn blue on me. Although blue might complement the color of just kidding. You got to have a sense of humor. If you lose your sense of humor, you lost it all. Don't you think so? Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Now you're involved in health issues, right?
Mm-hmm. My own mostly.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to check her chakras. Counterclockwise, clockwise, clockwise, clockwise. Okay. Good. Now I'm going to ask about some frequencies. Frequency 8. Scale of 0 to 10, 10 being maximum. Is it a 10? Is frequency 14 a 10? Is it 10? 23 is a 10, 28 is a 10, 38, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Okay, that's emotional stability. It's down a bit, okay? 141 is at a 10, 9, that's your immune system down a tiny notch. Okay, so I'm going to go up here and I'm going to check your thymus gland. Still in pretty good shape, but your adrenals are shot. Oh, there we go. Pineal, hypothalamus, pituitary. Okay, your adrenal glands are not doing too good. Were you aware of that, adrenal stress?
It doesn't surprise me. I've been taking care of someone for 5 years. She
Okay.
was recently passed.
Now let's try something, all right? Now this is an example of somebody under a lot of stress over a long period of time. And this has to be taken seriously. It's a killer, it literally is. Okay, now we're going to check her again. And her adrenals are now strong. See how that works? The stress will take the adrenal glands down. It'll wipe them out. Blow the stress out through the central nervous system, the adrenals will come right back on. They don't always do that. Sometimes the glands will accumulate heavy metal vapors. We've developed frequencies to get rid of those. We can have you read a frequency and just eliminate the heavy metal vapor. It works very, very good. Okay. Okay, now she doesn't have an adrenal problem. That's great. And all the other glands seem to be working, little finger there, seem to be working good. Okay. So I think what we're going to do now is we don't get anything on the master allergy points. I'm not going to find any organ in serious trouble. I know the glands are doing pretty good. So what I want to check for is infection. Where's your belly button? Point there.
Gotta find it. Right there.
Okay, just do it through your shirt. There he is. Okay, good. Bingo, bingo, bingo. No good bacteria in her. Taking a probiotic.
Not very regular.
And her battery's discharged. Her central nervous system is discharged. See that? Let's find out where it is on a scale of 0 to 10. Is it a 10? 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. It's a 3. Now, if it would be proper to ask, how old are you?
50. What year is it? I'm 53.
53. Okay, so now her central nervous system is depleted from stress. Okay, and I don't know of any way to really bounce that back up except maybe this new technology holds some hope for that. But we've got to get people's central nervous systems charged back up. And I think that came from the fact that in their atmosphere, they had an excess of xenon gas. Now, I can't interface you with xenon gas. There's just traces left in the atmosphere. So we're going to interface you with the scalar wave in vacuum space. We're going to build an antenna, picks up the frequency of xenon, and it's going to be interfaced through the card, the biodisc.
Thank you.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Central nervous systems?
Pardon?
Would sleep help build the central nervous system?
Absolutely. Adequate rest. Sometimes, if you can't sleep, get up and pound on your spine. Dissipate some stress. You'll often find that you could go right off to sleep.
I was told I need 5 hours of uninterrupted sleep totally.
You get down on the spine a certain way, but
Right.
Minimum.
Minimum. Yeah.
put it whatever.
I get it, I was like 10 hours of sleep. Can you expand on what's going on when you do that? I mean, I know
You're sending a shock up the spinal cord. Now this is all very electrical. Here's the central nervous system branching out in the peripheral nervous system. Shock wave goes up and goes out all the nerves. Reaches.
So it's kind of waking up the cells.
Yeah. It's actually doing something to the electrical potential.
Is that for the adrenal glands only?
Yeah. No, it can happen for other systems too.
Okay.
Did you get that for Roma?
Yeah.
Because we leave out there.
Okay. Okay, we're going to do one more person, and then they're going to kick us out on our air at 10. Roma. Okay.
need my glasses?
Please, yes,
Yes.
yes. Yeah, you can put it right here. This is Roma Downey. You've seen her on TV? Okay. Okay. Oh, good test. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, so far. Okay, now, maybe take a big breath and hold it. I want to make sure on the scope, please. Hold it. Don't move. Okay, there we go. Okay, very good. Okay, now. It's not too bad. So do you work on your health?
Yeah, I eat live foods as much as I can.
Okay, I can tell. Check the adrenals. Pineal gland, hypothalamus, pituitary. Good and strong. Let me check these frequencies. 8, 10, 10, 20 is a 10, 23 is a 10, 38 is a 10, 141 is a 10. All of her frequencies are up to maximum. This is excellent, okay? Just point to your belly button. All of her frequencies are up to maximum. Okay, in other words, there's a lot of stability here. And it's because of her lifestyle, and her attitude is a major thing here. Attitude is everything. Yeah, and the way she eats, oh yeah. The way she eats comes from attitude. If you have a bad attitude, everything about your life is going to be bad. Okay, belly button.
We better tell him I'm a minister.
Yeah.
That may have something to do with it. I have a direct relationship with God.
Discharge of the central nervous system. That's the only thing we found so far, right? Let's ask. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 3. 3. Good and strong at 3. Okay, that's not bad.
That means energy recharge the same as the other two people?
Yeah, you need to be energy recharged.
So we're all waiting for the Xeno.
You're all waiting for Now, do you drink this water, though?
Well, this is my first experience with it. So.
Oh, okay. Well, then, Roma, put your arm up. We want to make sure. Yeah, you're dehydrated and you have no minerals in your system. Okay.
Do you want to test with the water then? Test with the dehydrated and has no minerals?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Good and strong. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Well, we should all have health like hers. Okay, we're just about done here.
Thank you very much.
Who?
Larry, right?
Oh, I didn't already work with him, did I?
No, no. Mm-mm. He's the one that had a shot when he was 6 and was totally paralyzed.
All right, Larry, we're going to work with you. Well, I better erase that before I put it back. It's going to look a little strange.
Someone coming here, they're awfully confused.
Yeah, they'll arrest me. Oh, take this out of your pocket and the pen. Put it right there. You have any metal in your pockets? Keys, coins? And if you have a watch on, it should come off.
You don't have a watch.
Okay.
And we're in the Valdez.
Okay, that's good. Keep that on.
What technique are you using for your diagnosis?
What's that?
What technique are you using? Or is it just something you...
Something I've synthesized over the years.
Not
I've been doing this for 35 years.
I can't go to the bookstore and get the book and read it.
No.
He hasn't written it yet.
But they're going to talk me into doing some type of seminar where I teach. And the more people that learn this, the better. I don't have any secrets here.
Qigong or anything, you're just not using Qigong.
Just standard contact reflex analysis is what it is. Biokinesiology. No, that's fine. Oh, God, he knows the drill. Okay. Now, she said you had a problem when you were younger?
Yeah.
Unconscious for a while?
No.
What was the problem?
I think vaccinations got to me.
Vaccinations.
That's my theory anyway.
How long ago? Child?
I was about probably 6 or 7.
Okay. Chemically poisoned. No systemic infection. Heavy metal poisoning. Vaccinations.
Okay. How about I have a lot of fillings too. That'd be a factor.
Yeah, mercury, silver, amalgam. Yeah, that'd be a factor. Yeah, okay. So you have heavy metal poisoning. That's the point for heavy metals. So if I check your before, let's do these first. I want to eliminate those as a factor. Okay. If I ask if you have frequency 8, is it a 10? Frequency 14, is it a 10? Frequency 20, is it a 10? Frequency 23, is it a 10? Frequency 28. You have no frequency 28. No 28. Do you have a frequency 28? No, it's not there. You have no protection from accumulating heavy metals. So it's been destroyed by heavy metal toxicity. Frequency 38, is it a 10? 141, 10, 9, 8. Your immune system is slightly down. Okay, this gentleman has heavy metal poisoning, starting with vaccinations, and then continuing with fillings in his teeth. Silver mercury amalgam fillings, okay? So you've had problems from this in the past, yeah?
Severe stuttering all through school and most of my life, and has some residual left.
Severe what?
Stuttering.
Stuttering, speech problems.
Yeah, heavy metal poisoning.
That's from that?
Yep.
It started at grade school after the first vaccinations. Back then, they didn't start vaccinations until grade school. And I didn't put it together until about 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, really?
Didn't realize what, just all of a sudden came to me one day, wow, that happened after I got vaccinated.
After the vaccination.
Some people have vax like that.
Oh, yeah. It's going to affect everybody differently, yeah. It just happened.
Potentially, as you're talking, see, this will pull the metals out then?
Yeah, the water will, yeah. See, if I put the water in his hand, here's the reflex point for heavy metal poisoning right here. I'm going to put this in his hand, and he's as strong as a bull. It tells me it'll take the heavy metals out. It's done it for several people. It'll go into the deep tissues and take the metals out. I hear how deeply they're buried. It'll go for them.
I've been using water, but I'm on a very low dose so far. So.
Oh, so you have yet to ramp up. Yeah. Okay. Good. And he's also got some chemical poisoning.
Okay. Is he hydrated?
I'm an auto mechanic, so.
Oh, that's it. No, he's not hydrated yet. He's not mineralized, but he just started.
Right.
He's on its way. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting. His primary problem is heavy metal poisoning. Coronary point. Yeah, there's his problem, heavy metal poisoning. Bingo. And some chemical toxicity. He's an auto mechanic. So he's probably got some hydrocarbon poisoning in him too. Do you
Hands,
you eat your hands occasionally in solvents and things?
Yeah, not as much as I used to.
Okay.
We used to have to use the worst parts all the time. Now we have, soap and water methods, hot water. Still get in it some.
Okay. Yeah. And so it's built up in his tissues.
Because of the logic, right? You can't.
Solvents absorbing your skin.
Oh, right through them, yeah.
Oh, so it soaks it right up.
You ever spill gas in your skin, you smell it for all day.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Goes right in. Yeah.
Wow, so it soaks it up, and some of it is
That-
always in there.
The last time I got a solvent on my skin, it hit my liver and I was sicker than a dog for 2 days.
Wow.
See the difference? It'll take the chemicals out of your body too.
What was it last test for?
Hmm?
What was it last when you tested?
Well, this is a point for chemical toxicity.
Okay.
It's telling me it'll take the chemicals and the heavy metals out.
Okay.
But it'll take some time. So
Oh,
just,
sure.
how long have you been on the water?
I started about the 1st of November.
Oh, okay, that's a short while, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I haven't worked up the very hard.
Okay.
I'm thinking maybe, 15 ounces a day probably. I don't really measure.
Yeah, all right. So it'll come, just give it time. Yeah. Okay, very good. Yeah.
Quick check of her. I just got to know her during the meeting. This woman desperately needs a quick check.
Oh, sure.
You think I'll be able to overcome this, that I haven't had these fillings all removed?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Because I have fillings in my mouth, I don't know, maybe as many as you do. And my health is really good. And I know that it could be better if I had these removed. And when I get enough money ahead, I'm going to do that. I'm going to have these, yeah.
A lot of absorption during removal, don't you, sometimes?
Oh, by the way, we had this partner in Utah that built our bottling plant and ran the plant in Panguitch. And he's a wonderful guy. His name is Sherrill. It's a family name, Sherrell. That's a man's name, Sherrill. Ott, O-T-T. His brother, James Ott, is a dentist, and he's the man who blew the whistle on silver mercury amalgam fillings. And they tried to kick him out of dentistry. He's a very bright man. He practices in St. George, Utah, and he's the man that blew the whistle on the whole thing. He started the whole controversy. Yeah, Dr. James Ott, yeah. Yeah, I've spent quite a bit of time around him. Very, very smart man. Yeah, it's really interesting. Okay, you are who?
Nancy.
Nancy, good. My older sister's name is Nancy. Your little fingers on together, okay. Okay, now, check your polarity. Oh, good. So you got some issues.
You're telling me.
A list of them? Lots of issues? Okay, let's see. Okay. You're chemically poisoned.
I know I am.
You have a systemic infection. Okay, straighten your head up, please. Yeah, okay. Now, okay. I'll tell you what. Oh, it's wiped out your pancreas. Oh, well, we can take care of several birds with one stone here, because you're reversed there, you're reversed there, and you're reversed there. Let's correct that while we're at it.
You need my card back?
Oh, I got mine. Put mine in my little wallet. Okay. Okay, now, when you work with ladies, and the doctor here will tell you that, you have to be very discreet.
Yeah.
You can be sued. So, I can do a breast exam on this woman and never touch her. All I got to do, you can't hide cancer from me. I can find it, I can localize it to the millimeter. I can do a breast exam, no cancer. Okay, no cancer. Okay, I can do a breast exam that discreetly and that quickly. And I took a registered nurse that came and she had 3 lumpectomies on her left breast. And I scanned it, and there's nothing there, but I said, oh, there's one on your right. No, there isn't. They didn't find anything there. Oh, I said, yes, there was. And I took her finger, and I said, poke right in there, and she did, and there was a lump. Oh, gee, she said, they missed that. This is out of control. I said, don't worry about it. I put her on this amplifier I have, and 20 minutes later, I couldn't find it was gone. And she's never had a problem since. It's been about 6 years. Okay, just be strong. Okay. Now, let me check something else here quickly. Okay, now the motherboard of the whole computer, the body's computer, is in trouble. It's the hypothalamus gland. The hypothalamus is in charge of monitoring all the chemistry in the body. Okay? And it helps with the metabolism of fats, carbohydrates, sugars, protein, and it coordinates and makes sure all the other glands kick out the right amount of hormones. It's like the motherboard of a computer, and it has a big responsibility. And hers is in trouble. And I had a feeling, based on some energy I was feeling. That's why I went ahead before doing the chakras. I went ahead and I worked with her glands first, and I found that the hypothalamus is in trouble. Now, that's the first person I found so far in St. Louis since I've been here with the hypothalamus in trouble. That's one gland you don't want to have in trouble. So let's do these first and see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, 122, 1 Now notice I don't have to touch her. The card is actually in the field above her skin. Now I say, where's your belly button? Bingo, right there. Okay, okay. Now I can touch her, put it right over her stomach chakra. And then I'm going to go to the solar plexus, and we'll get that taken care of. Notice you can do this on yourself in your crotch. You can go clockwise. Over your stomach chakra, you can go clockwise. Over here, you can go clockwise. If you're a female, over the heart, you go counterclockwise. If you're a man, you go clockwise. You can do it over your throat, third eye, and over the top of your head. You can do this on yourself. This is one of the reasons I developed this technology. I was finding people with chakras spinning the wrong direction everywhere. I can't get to every person in the country. So we send this out and they can do it on themselves. There's instructions that come with it. But we don't have instructions yet because it's really complicated to explain how to do the chakras. We're developing instructions for that right now. In fact, I have some diagrams that have been sent down to me by the people that make these. They're chakral diagrams and they wanted my approval. So we'll come up with a written description and some diagrams. And the best way of teaching it will be for people to get these tapes where they could actually see me doing it. That'd be the best way, and I hope they can put like a little video on the website, the company. Okay? Okay, now, you don't need this anymore, so I do. So I put it in my wallet so the geometry side faces the outside of the wallet and stick it in my back pocket so it faces my body. Okay, now. We go down here, and here's your heart, counterclockwise, clockwise, clockwise, clockwise. Let's go back up here. There's your hypothalamus. Strong as a horse. It was energy fields doing it. I had a feeling it was. That's interesting. Okay. You're still chemically toxic.
Oh, yeah, I'm sick.
Yeah. You got the chemical poisoning, but it's not heavy metals. So let me ask. Well, it'll be the first time I think I've done this in front of a crowd of people. I might as well do it and show you how crazy I really am. Somebody got a pen I can write with?
Oh, the frequency.
I'm going to make up a frequency that will neutralize the chemical toxin in her body instantly. I'm going to hope to do this. Oh, thank you, dear. Appreciate it. Okay, these are all low numbers. If you get to dealing with organs and glands, they're very high numbers. Okay, we're just about there. There's your number. Now, here's what you do. Pen, thank you. We have to treat the human body like a battery now. Anybody in this room can put energy into the person sitting next to them. Anybody can do that. The young people can do it. The elderly people can do it. No problem. But it isn't going to do any good. The body does not know what to do in nonspecific energy. You get nonspecific results, so you have to codify the energy. There's the code for this woman. There's the number. There's the number. There's the frequency that will neutralize and take apart the chemicals in her body.
And each person is different then?
Yeah, it'd be different, and you'd have to have my ability to do it, okay? So, what I do is this. I'm going to put the energy into her through her brainstem. So I'm going to go on this side. Now, it's like a car battery. Your battery has a positive terminal, and the juice comes from the positive, comes back to the battery from the negative ground, right? Okay, this is the positive terminal. The negative ground point are the eye sockets. That's where most of the meridians end. Her job is to hold that so I can see the number. I'm going to put the card as the mediator. Remember, the Vitruvian man faces me now, and the geometry faces her. I'm going to put it on her brainstem. I'm going to close her eyes. I'm going to put energy in and take it back out. But when the energy goes through her, it's going to be codified because I'm going to read the number. 659375799928. 659375799928. 659375799928. 659375799928. 659375799928. 659375799928. And 659375799928. Now, I quit feeling energy go in and out of her. The body's no longer receiving any more energy. Okay, so now I'm going to put the card away, and then we're going to test her. And thank you. Charm up, please. Little finger, thumb. There you go. Good, good, good. Straight ahead. There's the point for chemical toxicity. She no longer has it. It's been neutralized by energy. Now, I want to take some stress out of this young lady, so I'm just going to do this. Okay, now, I probably won't be, your belly button is right there. Okay, good, 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 good. Okay, now the question becomes, what's wrong? What's wrong is that she's dehydrated and she's demineralized. Now she's got a job. She works on hydration and she works on being mineralized.
She told me that she thought she had candida. Could you just check her for that?
No, I checked her.
She doesn't have it.
She doesn't have candida. Belly button right there. No, she doesn't have candida.
What's candida?
Yeast. Yeast overgrowth. Yeah. Blows out of the intestinal tract. Goes everywhere.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Thank
welcome.
you, Dan. It's way past your time. Aren't you getting tired?
Oh, yeah, I am, but
We're out of time.
Okay.
That one young lady, and then we need to get out of here.
Yeah,
Who?
right here.
Oh, this lady.
Dan, you've got like 8 minutes on the DVD left.
Okay. Now, I have a bad feeling about her. She already lied to me. She told me she was 40 years old, and I don't believe that. She's 20, right? She's 20. Okay. You are 20, aren't you? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Be strong. Okay. And she lied to me when I was eating, and it changed my food. That's why I choked on the soup.
It was me, that's why.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now she has a systemic infection. Says bloodborne, yeah. She shows me her belly button right there, right there. She has a friend riding around in her bloodstream like somebody on a roller coaster, and what it is it's an amoeba. You have an amoebic parasite in your bloodstream.
How do you get rid of it?
Probiotic.
Okay.
Nature's biotic. The bacteria from the camel dung
Is that like?
Oh, it's just waiting to go in there and eat that. Yum, yum, yum.
Where can I sign up for something?
Sounds like camel food to me.
Don't get too graphic. I'm supposed to buy that stuff too.
Okay. Bingo. This is interesting. Not bad. Otherwise, you're strong. Just picked up this infection. Okay. Now frequency 8 is at a 10. Frequency 14 is a 10. 23 is a 10. 28 is a 10. 38 is a 10. 141. Well, that's great. So you're not on the water, right? So you're dehydrated. And you'd have no minerals in your system. Otherwise, you've got this systemic infection, and it's a parasite. That's your primary problem.
All right.
Okay, now I'm going to check, watch this. On a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being maximum, her oxygen level should be a 10, okay? Is her oxygen level a 10? Is it a 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3? Where's the oxygen going?
To the
amoeba. It needs oxygen too. It's getting it before the cells do. Bingo. Okay, oxygen level's low. The amoeba's eating, but what it's not doing, it's not affecting her blood sugar levels like some other little guy I checked who has a parasitic infection in his bloodstream, and it's affecting his blood levels. Okay, that's it.
You said nature's. You said nature's what?
Nature's biotics.
Now, what if I told you? Could you? I have some brain and spinal tumors, lesions.
Yeah.
Like, so is there? If I tell you that, can you? They're mostly brainstem lesions.
Yeah, there's brainstem lesions. I find them
Are
right
they
there.
from parasites?
Yeah, if I check brainstem lesions, checking for lesions. There's
And
lesions. Spinal cord lesions. Yeah, there are some. Now, how long have you known about that?
3 years.
Okay.
Right about 3 years.
Okay.
A little bit less.
What did they tell you it was?
MS.
Okay, they told me mine was neurosarcoidosis. It was a parasite.
It's caused by the parasite. It's not MS, no. Here's the MS point. No. If I were to check you for MS, B vitamins, MS, no.
She doesn't have MS?
No.
Because I give myself a shot every day for like going on 3 years. So, that's groovy if it's not.
Well, the medication's great because it actually helps deal with the symptom. It's never going to the cause. If it did, you would have not needed the shot for quite some time by now. Yeah. So, yeah, the root cause is something else. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Everybody, I want a big hand for that. Okay. We had him until 10 o'clock. It's almost 10:30, so good night, everybody.
Thanks for coming.
Whoever invited you here can tell you how to get with the company and get your products ordered. Our conference call